Welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Chapter 21, The Appreciation of the White Robe Elder. There will be a heavy rainstorm in this city at 96 p.m., which will last for about hours. All work in the city will be suspended. Please make preparations in advance. Yuan's was woken up by the weather forecast that his father had to check every morning. However, Yuan's is used to getting up early, and starts morning exercises as soon as he wakes up. But the moment he entered the flow, Yuan's once again entered a special spiritual space. The difference from the last time was that this time it was a pure white space. The power of this whiteness was very weak and could be easily annihilated by the darkness of the last time. Yuan's passed the test quickly this time. This power is called temptation. It is a kind of spiritual power that he can use by making sounds. Having just acquired a new ability, it was almost 7 o'clock now, so Yuanzi simply took the source power training guide that had just been sent to his mobile phone last night and took a look. The specific training methods would not be received until he entered the training camp. The first half was a video with a mechanical female voice explaining. First of all, congratulations to Yuan's for becoming a member of the elite training camp. Next, I will lead you to officially open the door to source warrior training. The innate source force in the human body will passively draw the source force of the universe into the body, subtly using this force to transform the body and strengthen various indicators of the body. Therefore, if one does not have innate source power in the body, one is destined to not be able to become a source warrior, and cannot even reach the apprentice level. Cultivation is to turn passivity into activeness, using the innate source force to actively attract the cosmic source force, and at the same time use them more efficiently to transform every part of the body, including muscles, bones, blood, internal organs, etc. However, there is a prerequisite for active practice, which is that the physical fitness reaches the passing line for practice, and this passing line is determined by the martial arts school and the qualification for practice is granted. In addition, 1 month later, the martial arts school will send some students with excellent college entrance examination results to the headquarters to join the professional training camp and take a customized rare potion to enable them to grow quickly. The levels of source warriors are divided from low to high. 1. Trainee level. 2. Awakening level. 3. Formal level. 4. Quenching level. 5. Financial level. 6. Peak level. 7. Extraordinary. 8. Paragon. 9. Phoenix. Except for the apprentice level, each other level has 9 levels. The first 3 levels are low levels, the middle 3 levels are intermediate levels, and the last 3 levels are high levels. Above this, there is a mysterious realm that transcends the level of ordinary human life, and there are only about 100 people in the world who have reached this realm. The bodies of these strong men have evolved to the point where they can unlock their genetic locks and gain some special abilities. Quote. No wonder my parents can't become source warriors. The textbooks didn't explain it completely. No wonder my master said that to me before. Yuanzi tilted his head and muttered to himself, but he was very conflicted in his heart. For some reason, ever since he met the old man in white robes 3 days ago, Yuanzi has been feeling a strong sense of uneasiness in his heart, and even the time he spent in flow training has been shortened during this period. Theoretical score is 99.9, source power is 195, and combat ratio is 1.9. Not bad, not bad. The liberal arts score is also as high as 735, the first in China. It seems that the elite training camp has found another good seedling. The old man in white robes personally came to the scene and handed Yuan's the elite student identity card, looking at Yuan's, a rare genius, with an envious expression. Yuan's looked at the old man in white robe in front of him and had a very familiar feeling, as if he had seen him somewhere. His white robe was as clean as snow, with ancient and mysterious patterns, like a sacred armor in the sunlight, exuding majesty. His long beard and white hair sparkled with the wisdom and light of the years, and his face was as firm as an ancient rock, calm and resolute. His eyes were as deep as the sea, as if he could see through the most secret thoughts in people's hearts. When he looked at Yuanzi, Yuanzi was in a trance, as if he could see through his soul. His voice was deep and powerful, and every word was full of power, making people intoxicated by it as if it carried great power. When he spoke, everyone would involuntarily immerse themselves in his words, and be attracted by his wisdom and majesty. Come with me to the headquarters for special training now, okay? The ability of flow was passively triggered, which confiscated this not-so-strong mental attack. Yuanzi's heart skipped a beat, but he quickly came to his senses and replied calmly, "Thank you, but I have my own things to do. I can grant you a top-notch weapon." Another tempting mental attack. No need. Yuanzi was very determined. He knew that such a big shot would never lower himself to a lower level. He would definitely not turn against him in front of so many people. The people around him also looked at Yuanzi. He actually rejected the invitation of the old man in white robe. And he also had a top-notch weapon. Who could resist such a temptation? Everyone felt that they could not do it. This caused an almost imperceptible flash of vigilance and surprise on the old man's face. He frowned slightly, then smiled again and continued, "You are indeed a genius. I admire your generosity. Well, Master Jinghua, you will stay here for a while. When little friend Yuan's matter is finished, I will take him to the main hall." Yes. The moment the order was received, a figure cut through the air like lightning and stuck into the ground like a sword out of its sheath. This person had previously restrained her aura so perfectly that even Yuan Zi's heart flow did not detect her existence, and Yuan Zi felt that her body was like a scabbard, filled with a strong desire to fight. Her eyes were as sharp as a knife, revealing a firm and decisive light. She swept her gaze over everyone, as if assessing the strength of each one. "It's time for me to leave now." Before he finished speaking, the figure of the old man in white robe disappeared from the spot. Hey, do you know who this is?" "The deputy director. Bro, you've become really rich, this is incredible." As soon as Niming Hao stepped into the martial arts hall, he saw this shocking scene. Regardless of the joy in his heart, he rushed to Yuan's and pointed to the place where the old man in white robe disappeared. The martial arts hall is the only powerful organization in the world today that is qualified to independently manage the world's source warriors. One of its founders is an old man in a white robe. He has 5 young coaches under him, whose status and strength are comparable to those of branch school presidents, and they are all at least at the highest level of human beings. At this time, the 2 of them looked at the coach in front of them and carefully examined him. Her face is like finely carved porcelain, fair and translucent, revealing a noble and elegant beauty. Her nose is straight, and her eyes are like the brightest stars in the night sky, deep and bright, shining with wisdom and courage. Her figure is graceful and agile, with exquisite curves, revealing a perfect combination of strength and beauty. Especially when she wears a tight combat suit, it fits her body like a second skin, outlining her perfect figure. Her muscle lines are smooth and tense, without a trace of excess fat, and she has a unique beauty. "I'll wait for you here when you're done." Jinghua didn't care about their gazes at all, like an ice sculpture. Yuan savored those last cold words. Having said that, Yuan's keen sense that they told him that the attacking behavior of the old man in white robe was definitely not a test of talent, nor was it an attitude of appreciating talent. He could vaguely feel a strange fanatical emotion. "So after I came to my senses, I postponed the invitation, but I could only delay it for a month at most, which would not solve the problem. The new power gained today is even more telling." Thinking about it this way, Yuan's also realized that the last sentence felt more like a warning not to act rashly. The coach probably didn't seem to be waiting for him, but more like a tool to monitor and control him. The most terrifying thing is that this is a naked conspiracy. Yuan's jumped up from the bed and thought to himself. We can't just sit there and wait. Chapter 22 Warning. Where are Hekan's parents? My information is that Hekan's parents died while hunting source beasts. Halma's voice obviously became low, and his words were like a heavy hammer hitting Yuan's heart. Hekan's parents are extraordinary warriors after all. Is there any news from the martial arts school? No, this matter was completely suppressed by the martial arts school. Alas, Yiyang is missing, and now Hekan is missing too. More and more people are missing. It feels like something big is going to happen. Yuan's frowned and thought of the 2 black shadows that made him unconscious. Why care about Yiyang? He deserves it. You can't say that. So what's going on now? Yuan Zi, who was sitting in front of the screen, had his thoughts in a tangled mess and even his speech became incoherent. That was 2 days ago. I hurriedly went to find my master in the heavy rain. Master, my good friend Hekan is also missing. Don't worry, dry the water off your body first. I saw that my master didn't even turn his head and was still checking and flipping through those unimportant materials, and I felt a little restless. Later I found out that master was looking at the information about Hekan's family. I want to see too. Mr. Yang is very concerned about you. He shared this information with me before you did. The master dragged the screen and copied another projection, and placed it in front of me who was sitting at the table, so that I could see if there was any information worth pondering. I clearly remember that this document recorded all the information about Hekan and his parents in detail. Quote, Hekan's father, is an extraordinary 8th-level warrior and a source beast hunter. He attended Jing'an No. 1 high school and entered an elite training camp after graduation. Chen Wanfang, Hekan's mother, an extraordinary 9th-level warrior. Quote, when I saw the information about Hekan's parents in the file, the uneasiness in my heart became even more agitated. How are his parents? Their whereabouts are currently unknown, but the couple is very compatible. They have the same fighting power as a high-level peerless warrior. It will take at least 2 high-level peerless warriors to take them down. There aren't many high-level warriors or above. Can't Elder Yang investigate their movements? It's true that there aren't many. If we add in the screening of activities around the 2 mechanical cities in Province S, it's even fewer. But the problem is that the movements of the qualified warriors registered in the martial arts hall are very far from the place where his parents disappeared. You mean, this was a premeditated incident? That's the situation, but Mr. Yang hasn't investigated the matter yet. He asked me to ask you if you can provide some clues. I've been looking for him all day, and I've been to every place he could possibly be. At that time, I raised my head and began to carefully recall the clues that happened the day before. In fact, if I had known this would happen, I should have used special equipment to contact Master first. We can't just sit there and wait. Ask Ji Xueren. After all, his brother. I shook my head and quickly rejected my idea. Who should I call? I suddenly remembered that He Can's parents had once attended an elite training camp. Plus, they had also worked in the martial arts gym for such a long time and were high-level martial artists, so they should know some information. I called He Can first. He Can, are you free now? My parents said they ran into some trouble yesterday, so they have to postpone it again. I'm so bored at home alone. Do you want to come and play some games with me? Or just go out for a stroll? Okay, we'll be there in 2 hours, around 11 o'clock. Why do you always come at mealtime? You want to eat and drink for free, right? If I don't want to, I won't go. Ha ha ha, don't be angry, I can't wait to do that. I'll go downstairs and buy some beer later. See you there. Okay, see you there. I hung up the phone, packed myself up, and went out, thinking it would be nice to relax with He Can. Maybe He Can knew some of the things. Not bad, it took 107 minutes. I looked at the time on the bracelet with satisfaction. In front of me was the gate of the community where He Can lived. But at that time I didn't know that I would regret my choice to run. It's not that I didn't want to arrive early, but I thought that the almost 2-hour run to He Can's house would just make up for the training I missed in today's morning exercise. I swiped my elite student ID card to enter the community. This thing is quite convenient. Except for not having permission within the core 2 rings, there is no obstacle to going to other places. I remember that the first time I came to He Can's house was not so smooth, but as luck would have it, there is no such thing as a coincidence. At that time, I was waiting for He Can to send the authorization, and at that moment, I happened to meet He Can's parents unexpectedly. I started chatting with them as if we were friends who had known each other for a long time, and the 3 of us walked into the gate of the community together. During the conversation with He Can's parents, I did not notice their arrogance as high-level martial artists. On the contrary, their words and actions revealed kindness and casualness, which made me feel extremely relaxed and comfortable, as if I was in a warm family. It wasn't until we met He Can downstairs and got to know each other that we all laughed in unison over this funny story. At that time, when I thought about these things, my mood became cheerful. I hummed a little tune and soon arrived at He Can's door. As always, He Can authorized my visit in advance. The door lock gave an electronic voice, iris verification successful. Mr. Yuan's, please come in. But there was no click sound of the door opening automatically, and only then did I notice that the door was ajar. This is very inconsistent with his meticulous character. I didn't rush into the house, but shouted from outside, Mr. He, your door is not closed. No sound came back. I quietly entered the house, and with the help of the flow state, I carefully looked around, and found that there was indeed no one there. I called several times again, but all the communication devices were turned off. It's really strange. The beer has already been bought. I picked up a can of beer. The beer was cold, but there were only a few water droplets on the beer shell, which meant that it had not been bought for long. This made me feel increasingly uneasy. 10:39. I noticed the time of the invoices for these bottles of beer, so I rushed out of He Can's house and went to the convenience store downstairs. I didn't sell it to minors. If you don't believe me, watch the surveillance video. A young man this big, with a strong body, just like you, doesn't look like a child at all. I found an excuse and asked my boss to let me see the surveillance footage, and there was nothing unusual about He Can in the footage. I'm sorry, I made a mistake, boss. Give me a bottle of this beer too. I sat at the convenience store counter with a beer in my hand. It took about 5 minutes for water droplets to form on the outer shell of the beer. Only a difference of 2 or 3 minutes. I asked the security guard at the door again and checked the surveillance with my ID card. I found out that He Can left the gate at 45, and entered an alley, and never appeared again. Then, I went to the alley called Nocturne Alley, which is just a dead end surrounded by 2 high walls and a blind spot for surveillance. After that, heavy rain began to fall without any warning. I searched for a whole day in the rain but couldn't find any clues. I went to places we often went to and looked for classmates I was familiar with but still couldn't find any clues. After I said all this, I also told my master about my encounter with the white-robed old man, the deputy director of the martial arts gym. I clearly saw that Li Haisheng's eyebrows were twisted into a knot that would never be untied, and his whole body was like the thinker, lost in endless thought. I don't know how long it took before the master was interrupted by a harsh urgent message. After taking a look at the message, he sighed heavily, held his forehead and whispered. It really is like when it rains it pours. The Hekan family is their warning to you. You contacted Hekan by phone, so he must have been discovered. Hekan's family has been implicated by you. Your parents are also in danger now. I will ask Elder Yang to take the opportunity to transfer your family urgently. But you must stay in this laboratory. Before I come back, you cannot take a single step out of here. Then, I saw Master putting on his battle uniform. It was also the first time I saw Master with such a bitter expression, as if some unpleasant memories were brought back to him. Before he left, he turned around and added, I said, there are traps everywhere in the Trap City. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 23 Tragic. So you spent a day in your master's laboratory. Halma restrained his previous recklessness and chose his words carefully, fearing that he might touch Yuan's sensitive spots. Yes, Halma could hear his regret, and from time to time he could hear him mumbling, it should have been earlier, and, why didn't you find a master first? Let's continue to communicate using my family's special frequency band from now on. I promise that no one will eavesdrop. Halma comes from a large overseas family and was sent to China to learn the advanced ideas of Yuanwu. Their family has a secret way of communication that can bypass wiretapping, and is one of the few people that Yuan's can contact with without worry. I just checked my clan's database. The old man in white robe is the one who proposed and built the mechanical city. You must have offended someone you shouldn't have offended. But there's nothing you can do about it. I'm not in China right now, but I will definitely find a way to deal with Hekan's problem. You must be careful and stay safe. You must not go out now. Something strange has happened in the SO1 mechanical city. You must. The communication was suddenly interrupted and a busy tone echoed in the laboratory. Yuan's fell into endless self-blame and loneliness, as if the whole world had abandoned him. Yuan Zi, have you forgotten what you said to your master? A soft female voice suddenly echoed in the laboratory. Who? Yuan's turned around suddenly, but couldn't see anyone. I'm the AI assistant that Dr. Li Haisheng is researching. I just finished the final debugging a few days ago. You can call me Astra. Astra, what are you going to tell me? Astra did not reply, but projected these words in front of Yuan's. Strategically despise the enemy, tactically take the enemy seriously, and never be without confidence. Yuan's remembered that these were the words he said when he was encouraging his master. Understood. Your master is a very powerful Yuanwu warrior, you don't have to worry about him. He told me that your appearance changed him. Now you are everything to him. Your growth is more important than anything else. Astra's gentle voice gradually calmed the depressed Yuan's. Yuan's nodded and seemed to calm down a little. Astra, what's the situation outside now? Astra projected the image, and Yuan's looked at the image on the projection with a look of astonishment. At this moment, the heavy rain outside is evolving into a flood like the end of the world. This kind of epic disaster is not uncommon after the catastrophe. But what is terrifying is the unprecedented scale of this time, which has far exceeded what he remembered 10 years ago. What's even more terrifying is that the Source Beast army will often not give up such an excellent opportunity to attack, especially during a flood, when many aquatic Source Beasts will serve as vanguards and infiltrate the mechanical city, wreaking havoc and slaughtering people. The situation outside is very chaotic. An apprentice Yuanwu warrior like you is not even cannon fodder, so Master asked you not to go out. Astra counseled Yuan's. Yuan stood there in a daze, his eyes fixed on the image on the projection. The battle was like a tragic picture, slowly unfolding before Yuan's eyes. In the projection, floods were raging and huge waves were surging. The streets and buildings of the mechanical city were washed away by the raging flood and were on the verge of collapse. The Source Beast Corps, under the cover of the flood, shuttled through the city like ghosts, roaring and attacking humans with their fangs and claws. The ordinary people who gathered together to escape were unable to protect themselves. The low-level fish-shaped Source Beasts were like tigers and wolves among the crowd, taking whatever they wanted. The messy limbs flying around stimulated Yuan's eyes. After the tragic wailing, only a blank space washed by the flood remained. Also, Yuan's blank brain. Yuan Zi turned stiffly to another screen. In this screen, most people had never experienced such a large-scale attack by Source Beasts. Facing the dual threats of floods and monsters, fear spread rapidly among the crowd like a spreading plague. On the streets and in the buildings, people were running in panic, trying to escape this inferno. However, the flood destroyed the road and the Source Beast blocked the way again. Only despair and struggle remain. A new screen appeared next to it. There were some Source warriors in the crowd, and they were still resisting. They were either waving their weapons or firing in other directions with hot weapons, forcing the Source Beasts to retreat step by step. Just when Yuan's thought he could finally take a breath, an extremely huge eagle fell from the sky, and within a moment of encounter, almost all of these Source warriors fell to the ground, losing their lives. There was only one Source warrior who was slightly stronger, still holding on. His clothes were stained with blood, but he did not retreat. He still roared and fired forward, defending the peace of the city with his life. But it was no use. As he fell, the giant eagle began to peck at the ground. The main force of this attack is the source beasts from the sky, most of which are integration level and peak level source beasts. The heavy rain is still falling without stopping. Fortunately, more and more extraordinary and peak level source warriors joined the battlefield, and these high level source warriors gradually reversed the one-sided situation. They are powerful and can fight against multiple source beasts alone. On the battlefield, these high-level source warriors all possess dazzling high-tech weapons, such as lightsabers, phase guns, force field shields. Every attack can severely damage the source beast. However, there were also powerful beings among the source beasts, and they started a fierce contest with these high-level source warriors. The two sides fought back and forth, and the fight was difficult to resolve. Every confrontation was accompanied by roars and sparks. At the forefront of the battle, Li Haisheng and several other source warriors were suspended in the air with the help of anti-gravity devices, standing in front of the source beast army like insurmountable mountains. Their eyes were firm and cold, as if they could penetrate all obstacles. Li Haisheng's body kept changing into various forms, and his scythe-like blow from the god of death harvested countless source beasts. Some people waved their swords, which turned into physical sword energy and cut countless source beasts into pieces. Some people pulled the triggers of their double guns, and every bullet shot out could penetrate a row of source beasts. Some people used strange weapons to punch in the air, and a group of source beasts were shattered into pieces. Some people turned into humanoid fighter planes, and with a roar, the entire group of source beasts was completely destroyed. The intimidating aura emanating from these powerful human warriors, coupled with their powerful fighting abilities, made the surrounding source beasts dare not approach easily. At this time, Nirvana level or even stronger source beasts appeared, and the other minions also retreated. They also exuded a powerful aura of oppression, a feeling that could penetrate the screen and make Yuan's feel his own weakness. Lord S01, how are you? The red-eyed giant eagle in the lead actually spoke. You too. The man standing in the C position said coldly. I still remember the taste of your parents. Nirvana level source warriors are so sweet. I'm sure you will be even more delicious, hee hee. The red-eyed giant eagle made a disgusting sound. But the city lord was not angered. Sooner or later, I will make you pay for your blood debt with blood. The giant eagle looked curiously at the gradually clearing sky, thinking, your human technology is really amazing. You can even change the weather. This will end much earlier than we perceive. Stop talking nonsense. Do you want to fight or not? A sturdy man who was estimated to be 2 meters tall pointed the terrifying weapon that could turn groups of source beasts into powder at the giant eagle, looking extremely angry. Don't be like this. A hasty pursuit will not be good for us. We need to think long-term. The city lord glanced at the burly man and blocked his action with his hand. That sounds nice, but it's because the sky is our home ground and no one here can catch up with us. The giant eagle spread its wings, and its body became a perfect fluid shape, breaking through the air and escaping. The other source beasts also left one after another. After the sonic boom, the giant eagle's words echoed in my ears. Know thy enemy and know thyself, and 100 battles will be won without danger. Chapter 24 Hatred and Power. After the flood, there was an indescribable smell in the air. This is a unique muddy smell emitted by wet soil, rotting vegetation and water-soaked ground, as well as a faint smell of mold and a strong smell of blood, with a disgusting and damp feeling. Occasionally, a breeze blew by, bringing a hint of coolness, but mixed with these unpleasant smells, it made people nauseous and there was no sense of comfort at all. This complex combination of smells seems to be a unique mark left by nature after the flood. Now you understand why I want to develop the C virus. Li Haisheng took Yuan's out of the laboratory. Yuan's looked at the post-war scene and felt no joy of winning at all. The price of victory is heavy, but victory is inevitable. The entire city was in ruins, with countless houses collapsed, the streets filled with puddles of varying sizes, and people's cries and calls for help could be heard everywhere. Clear. Master, have you experienced this kind of situation many times? This is the 3rd time. The most recent one was 10 years ago. You should still have some impression of it. So what happened back then? It's a long story. Li Haisheng was in front and Yuan's was behind. The two of them shuttled through the post-disaster city and met all kinds of people. Some people lay quietly on the ground, their relatives and friends were crying and calling beside them, but those familiar faces no longer responded. There was a group of children, displaced, standing alone at the crossroads. Their figures looked fragile among the ruins, their eyes were filled with endless confusion, yet full of vitality. There were also countless people clenching their fists, staring at the direction where the source beast was retreating. The hatred in their eyes seemed to be bursting out, and they were determined to be irreconcilable with the source beast. Li Haisheng stood on a small hill where the flood had receded, with his hands behind his back and facing Yuan's. You should know that Province S is another hub of China besides the capital, and it is home to the four most influential families in China: the Li family, the Ji family, the Zhang family, and the Kong family. No, the Li and Zhang families are relatively weak, so their relationship is relatively close. The Ji family has deep ties with China, and the Kong family is mainly good at doing business and has a relatively wide range of connections. After I invented the C virus, my brother Li Haiming changed his mind and became thirsty for power. He wanted to use this technology to control the Source warriors and use it to strengthen the family's combat effectiveness to ensure that the family can continue to be passed down. So he colluded with the top leaders of other families to frame me. It was my father and the elders who protected me that I was only punished by having my Source power sealed and being expelled from the family. But not long after, there was a turmoil in the Li family. My father died, and Li Haiming, as the only heir, naturally took control of the power of the Li family. Could it be Li Haiming? Yes. Then why would Elder Yang help us? Shouldn't he submit to the new heir? But he is the elder's man, and also my father's man. He is also my master. Since my father died, as the former intelligence chief under my father, he didn't want to follow Li Haiming, so he changed his name. It is said that he is now working for other organizations, but I don't know who they are. What about the elder? The elder is my father's master. He is one of the few strong men in the family who has surpassed the nirvana level and has a transcendent status. He helped me remove the seal of the instrument and accidentally removed the oath that the instrument had imprinted in my brain, allowing me to teach you the secret method of my family. But I hate him. He didn't help my father at all and even caused his death. I also hate my brother. For a little power and to join the ghost plague, he was willing to sacrifice his own blood relatives as a token of his loyalty. 10 years have passed, and Elder Yang has only found out that Li Haiming joined the organization and some of its actions. As for the other members of the organization, its organizational structure, and its purpose of action, nothing is known. If it weren't for you, I would have listened to old Yang's advice and let the matter go long ago. But now even old Yang, who is half buried in the ground, has been moved by you. Li Haisheng turned around and smiled. Yuan's listened to his master talking about the family's past intrigues and deceptions, and understood the chilling feeling his master had felt in the past. Yuan Zi, take a look at the inner ring of the mechanical city. Yuan's took the X-ray glasses that Li Haisheng took out. He remembered that he had used them at the last auction. This was a special prop developed by Li Haisheng that could ignore camouflage. In the distance, the gap between the image in the perspective mirror and the reality in the eyes is so huge that it is a strong contrast. A never-before-seen mechanical gate stood there. Surrounding the core area of the inner ring, except for a little bit of water seeping in, there was almost no impact, and it still looked like a paradise on Earth. It is like a huge and solid gate, completely separating the outer ring from the inner ring. The torrent of life rushes here, unable to pass through, unable to break through, unable to avoid, and unable to circumvent. Countless people roared in despair here. They struggled in vain and finally sank in pain, turning into a wisp of dust in the long history. Isn't it ironic? Every time this happens, the inner circle is almost unscathed, and the people inside are singing and dancing as usual. Isn't this to protect important people? But why hide it and deceive everyone? Yuan's looked at Li Haisheng's back, he lit a cigarette skillfully and started smoking. That's what I thought before. Although I hoped that everyone could protect themselves when facing the source beasts, I still looked down on those servants at that time. I felt that they were born to protect us. I even felt that their strength and fighting outside only helped them to better protect us. It was a long time later that I realized that the gate of the machinery city could be expanded to every corner of the machinery city, but some people deliberately didn't do it. They let the civilians hate the source beasts and then took advantage of this hatred. Shouldn't the source beast die? Yes, that's what your book says. Before the catastrophe, humans trampled on other creatures wantonly, claiming to be the spirit of all things, and led the sixth mass extinction. But you have also seen so much, do you think this must be correct? Yuan's did not remain silent this time, and recalled what his master had said before. But master, you are not entirely right. You once said, sometimes the area of justice is only one end in the end. But sometimes the world needs this one end of hope, because a single spark can start a prairie fire. Yuan's paused and lowered his head as if he was thinking about how to organize his words. Li Haisheng stretched out a hand, wanting to touch Yuan's head as he did before, but found that Yuan's height had increased rapidly during this period and was almost the same as his own. He retracted his hand, put out the cigarette that was almost finished, and stepped on it. This time, you've grown up. Yuan suddenly thought of something and looked ahead. I want to be that one end hope. Chapter 25, Parting Blossoms. A few days later, Yuan's looked back, but his master still hadn't shown up. You'll be late if you don't leave. Yuan's was urged by the captain to board the plane, looking back every step of the way. In the era when source beasts were rampant, airplanes were extremely expensive means of transportation in the crystallization of countless cutting-edge technologies. Mr. Yang is not a simple man either. Even if he can't compare to those big families, his strength and financial resources are quite scary. Yuan's thought to himself. Yuan sat in the seat next to the window and tried hard to look outside the plane, but there was no sign of his master. The plane gradually took off, breaking free from the constraints of gravity bit by bit. Yuan's ears also felt a little buzzing and pressure, but his eyes were still fixed on the bottom, refusing to move away for a long time. Mr. Yuan, Mr. Li Haisheng said that this is a letter from one of your classmates. Yuan's looked away and took the letter. On his palm he felt the slightly rough fiber texture unique to paper products. He opened the seal and took out the letter. There were familiar handwriting on it, with only a few words. Yuan sighed softly, feeling that he was not doing her justice. He closed his eyes, and all the memories about her came flooding back to his mind. He knew that these beautiful memories could only remain quietly in his heart, becoming a treasure that he treasured alone. Hello, Mr. G, please let me pass. I am Yuan's and I am here to teach martial arts. Yuan's bowed politely towards the screen. Before Yuan's obtained the status of an elite student, he was not qualified to pass through the last 3 gates of the mechanism and had to obtain authorization from his master. The blurry figure nodded with his back turned, cold and stiff, and said hoarsely, "Let it go," and teleport directly to the family training room. In a moment, Yuan's arrived at the training room where the class was held. The floor of the training room was shiny and had a great grip. There was a wisp of incense smoke under the painting of a swordsman in the center. On both sides were high-quality weapons and armor. The simple and elegant style revealed the owner's high taste and aesthetics. The only thing that Yuan's felt was the wooden figures in the center that didn't fit in with the environment, with gorgeous pictures all over them. It was the first time that Yuan's was hired as a martial arts teacher by a family within the Third Ring Road with such a high salary, but soon a familiar laughter was heard from upstairs. Ji Xueren. Yuan sat on the mat with his legs crossed, holding his forehead with his right hand. He felt his head was suddenly overwhelmed. This naughty guy always brought him some surprises. What's wrong? Aren't you happy to see me? Ji Xueren said playfully. Of course I'm happy. Yuan smiled helplessly and muttered, "It's all because you gave me so much money." What are you talking about? I spent a lot of money to hire you, Master Yuan. You have to satisfy me before you can leave. Don't tease me. How can I be qualified to teach you? You are ranked second now. No, Jen-san, I've seen your performance in the last few tests. How could you not have something? If you hadn't taught me when I first joined the class, I'm afraid I would still be at the bottom of the elite class in martial arts. It must be said that Ji Xueren's learning talent is indeed first class, and her speed of comprehension is much faster than others. In the martial arts hall, this can be regarded as the top group of source warriors with the highest comprehension. If I don't have the heart flow, I am afraid I am still a little inferior. So it wasn't because I gave good instructions, but because she had become more diligent for some reason. What a pity. She has no interest in being a scientist or a warrior. She just wants to be a painter. Yuan Zi secretly complained as he watched her stabbing the painted wooden figures with a sword. Let's have a real fight. Yuan said to her in a deep voice. Can your body handle it now? No problem. I passed the test at the martial arts gym last time and beat Li Weiming. I'm almost recovered. Yuan wants to find some equally matched opponents to train with. The last battle with Li Weiming was originally a evenly matched contest. But because this involves the honor of the master, I can only give it my all. Coupled with the opponent's carelessness and my use of the ability of fear, this cannot be considered a contest at all, but just a crushing defeat. Fighting is the best training method, especially when facing a stronger and more challenging opponent. It can help you hone yourself better without using special abilities. The two men put on their armor, saluted, and the battle was about to begin. Yuan Zi doesn't like to use swords, and prefers to fight with two-handed knives. This can effectively increase the frequency of attack. Although two-handed combos and coordinated defense are more difficult, with the assistance of flow, it will have better effects than one-handed weapons. He took a sideways stance, which was a combination of offense and defense, and could be used to quickly launch an attack or switch to defense in time. His eyes were fixed on Ji Xueren, looking for the opponent's flaws. Ji Xueren was holding a sword, her body tense, like a fully drawn bow, ready to shoot at any time. She kept changing her pace, trying to confuse Yuan Zi and find an opportunity to break through. Suddenly, Ji Xueren caught the moment when Yuan Zi's body swayed slightly, and she quickly stepped forward and switched to a virtual step. The sword light struck Yuan Zi like lightning, as if to split him in two. However, Yuan Zi did not panic. He had anticipated this move and responded with a right empty step with the forefoot on the ground. His right hand knife turned outward and chopped from the left shoulder to the right shoulder, accurately blocking Ji Xueren's attack. The sound of swords clashing echoed in the air, showing the contest of power between the two sides. Ji Xueren was slightly surprised when her attack was blocked, but Yuan Zi took advantage of the situation to counterattack. His left-hand knife changed from defense to attack, and his body turned accordingly, while his right hand turned in the opposite direction, trying to disrupt the opponent's rhythm. However, Ji Xueren was no ordinary person. She quickly regained her senses, pulled the sword back and forth, and then threw the sword forward. At this time, Yuan's door was wide open, and he heard a dull sound as the wooden sword hit the armor. Yuan's was pushed by this clever force, and his body tilted backwards. Ji Xueren took the rebounding wooden sword, and in an instant the wooden sword was hanging on his neck. Yuan smiled and dropped his weapon. I give up. HMPH. Ji Xueren raised her head proudly, turned around and snorted, secretly rejoicing in her heart that she had finally won against him. Unexpectedly, Yuan suddenly jumped up, and when the two swords fell, he pulled out a wooden sword and stabbed her in the vitals. You lose this round. You're cheating. I don't care, I win. Ji Xueren lay on the ground, throwing a tantrum and rolling around, which was actually a bit cute. I've told you many times that you must make sure that the other party loses the ability to resist, like this, otherwise it will be very dangerous. Yuan stretched out a foot and kicked the wooden sword on the ground far away. Yeah, so let's say you win. Ji Xueren sat up from the ground, revealed a cunning look, and nodded, then let's continue. After that, Ji Xueren never gave Yuanzi any chance to show mercy. Her sword dance was very powerful and fierce. Yuanzi was unable to win back a single point in the whole morning. But the joy of victory did not completely occupy Ji Xueren's heart. She clearly realized that every time she attacked Yuan's, she needed to devote more strength and energy. Yuanzi was like a sponge, constantly absorbing her strength and recovering quickly. His defense became tighter and tighter, his reaction became more and more agile, and the power transmitted from the sword became stronger and stronger, forcing Ji Xueren to be on guard against his counterattack at all times. This delicate balance made Ji Xueren understand that what Yuanzi lacked was the recovery of his energy. In order to avoid Ji Xueren getting hurt, he chose a more restrained and single fighting style, otherwise he would still be defeated. Enough, I'm tired. Due to the fact that he was not yet fully trained, Yuanzi's long-term combat training was still a bit too exhausting for him. No, I want to come again. Ji Xueren pouted. She finally got the chance to beat Yuanzi up, how could she let it go? I cannot make it. A man can't say he can't do it. Come on. After a few more rounds of fighting, Yuan's finally collapsed to the ground due to exhaustion, while Ji Xueren, who was sweating profusely beside him, was still a little unsatisfied, but seeing his weak look, she let him go. You've made obvious progress. I'm afraid even he can't beat you now. Yuanzi said while packing his luggage after taking a rest. Ji Xueren handed Yuan's a bottle of water and said with a smile, I'm not sure I can beat Li Weiming, you must have a trick up your sleeve. By the way, how are you recovering now? The recovery is pretty good. There's still a month left, let's work hard together. Ji Xueren encouraged with a sweet smile on her face. She lay on the floor, watching the transporter that was about to start, and carefully looked at Yuan's. His figure is more upright and muscular, his muscle lines are still smooth and powerful, his mental state is even more full than when we first met, his eyes are clearer and brighter than before, and he exudes a desire to explore the world and fearless courage. Ji Xueren thought silently in her heart, her eyes full of admiration and expectation for Yuan's. As the letter says, when we meet again, let's laugh as happily as before. Ji Xueren. Chapter 26 Li Haisheng. Maxima often has it, but Bull does not often have it. Li Haisheng is the person who discovered Yuan's. It was a day that Li Haisheng would never forget. It was also the day that caused Li Haisheng's worldview to change dramatically. One morning, Li Haisheng, who had been expelled from the family for some time, finally received the first commission from the martial arts school. In order not to waste any more time, he accepted the commission to investigate the student source. The school was called WX District No. 12 Experimental Primary School, a civilian school without many resources and full of poor students. There was no condition for them to enter a martial arts school for training. This was a task that Li Haisheng hated extremely, but there was no other way. When Li Haisheng arrived, it was just the end of the school day. Li Haisheng deftly moved among the crowd of people picking up their parents. He was afraid that the stains on their bodies would dirty his newly bought high-end suit, so he walked to a clean bench in a remote corner, took out a tissue and wiped it for a long time before sitting down. He then complained to his wife about how dirty and ugly this job was. Seeing the civilians on the video call, his wife on the other end of the phone echoed him and advised him to come back as soon as he finished the work, warning him not to get himself dirty, otherwise he would not get his reward today. No amount of coaxing would help. Li Haisheng stretched and was about to hang up the phone when he looked up and saw a little boy walking towards him in the distance. The little boy just squeezed out of the crowd, using the surging crowd behind him as his backdrop. He was wearing a suit that was a little too big for his body, and the ill-fitting style often forced him to pull at his trouser legs and sleeves. He was carrying a heavy school bag on his shoulders, which seemed to be quite strenuous. However, his eyes are as clear as a spring and as sharp as a sword, as if he can see through everything in the world and its inner essence. He also reveals a kind of firmness and persistence rarely seen in adults. His curiosity and fearlessness about the world are like a shining pearl, attracting attention. What are you staring at? Did you hear me? Li Haisheng's attention was firmly attracted by the little boy. He stared at him intently. The bottleneck that had been dormant in Li Haisheng's body for many years actually loosened a little. Unbelievable. His steady steps were light and agile, and every step seemed to be treading on an invisible and mysterious rhythm. His every breath was long and deep, as if it could communicate with the breath between heaven and earth. Li Haisheng instantly comprehended the feeling of Tao follows nature, and rushed straight to the first level from the 9th level of transcendence, and he did nothing but watched him. Then I'll hang up. I'll wait for you to come back for dinner. Li Haisheng stood up instantly, without bothering to reply to his wife, the surging crowd, or his clothes, and rushed into the school. He couldn't bear to disturb the child. But he had to know who he was. Hello. Hello. Welcome to our school to give us guidance. The principal welcomed Li Haisheng with a smile, because the aura that had just broken through had not yet been restrained. As an extraordinary warrior, the principal had no choice but to bow his head, even though the rank on Li Haisheng's badge was lower than his. Quick, take me to the reading room, I want to check a student's information. Okay, I'll take you there right away. Tens of thousands of photos of students at school were projected onto the conference room of the reading room. In just a moment, Li Haisheng locked onto him and clicked on the photo. The projector immediately transmitted the information to Li Haisheng's device. Li Haisheng read Yuan's information word by word, and was shocked beyond words. What a genius. This broke Li Haisheng's stereotype and caused his attitude towards civilians to change 180 degrees. However, Li Haisheng still patiently completed the work first, and then he rushed to Yuan's house in one breath and directly recruited him as his disciple. After that, Li Haisheng helped Yuan's parents change jobs and houses, and allowed his 2 siblings to enter better schools. It was Li Haisheng who helped Yuan's get into the top class, otherwise teacher Lin might have secretly helped Yuan's change his choice of major, not to mention that he was able to get in even though he paid most of the tuition himself. Li Haisheng did not give up during the 10 years when Yuan's strength made no progress. At the same time, he tried his best to help Yuan's recover, including various rare panaceas. During the 10 years when Yuan's was stagnant, he had constantly gained insights from Yuan's and made breakthroughs. Now he was only one step away from breaking through to the nirvana level. Therefore, he paid more attention to talents and opened a martial arts school as the only promotion channel for children of common people. As long as he found a talent, he would accept him as his disciple and personally spend resources to cultivate him. Yuan's junior fellow student Ni Minghao is one of them, even though Ni Minghao has passed the best window for advancement. However, there are only a few of the family belongings left, making it difficult to continue. However, all his efforts finally paid off. Yuan's did not let himself down. He was admitted to the elite training camp with excellent results, which was a great honor for himself. Logically speaking, I can breathe a sigh of relief. Yesterday, Yuan's came to the laboratory again. Li Haisheng continued to concentrate on his research in the laboratory, seemingly forgetting that he also had a job as a martial arts master. Master, I will leave tomorrow morning, remember to see me off. Li Haisheng was stunned and the things in his hand slipped off. Are you taking the special plane that Mr. Yang arranged for you? Yes. I have already said hello to your family members. They cannot show up. I told you. Where are your classmates and friends? Many of them were killed in the flood caused by the invasion of the source beasts. Li Haisheng was silent. This was the only way for Yuan's to grow, but this time it was his turn and he didn't know how to comfort him. It's okay. I will work hard in the training camp. I will avenge them. Don't be as impulsive as before. Don't show all your emotions on your face, and don't let the desire for revenge blind you. I'm worried about this. You're young and impulsive, and you always act on impulse. Master, if young people don't have strong temper, can they still be called young people? 2. In the elite training camp, the old man in white robes won't dare to touch you easily. The training camp is not only about the power of the martial arts school. You will be absolutely safe in the first year. If there are any problems that cannot be solved, find a way to contact Mr. Yang. Yuan's felt that there was something else behind his master's words. Look here, this is my gift to you for entering training camp. The closet next to it popped open automatically, revealing a brand new battle suit. This suit was undoubtedly the result of Li Haisheng's hard work. On the battle suit, red and black are constantly intertwined and integrated, making it look both mysterious and powerful. The material is light yet strong and full of toughness. It has a built-in communication channel between you and Harma, and Elder Yang's encrypted communication is also on it. It can also maximize the role of the genetic programming chip and improve a series of data. It also has a built-in micro-nuclear reactor that is replenished by source power, which can cooperate with the bracelet I gave you last time to release a defensive force field. It also has a self-cleaning function, so you don't have to take it off and wash it yourself. There is also space for storage. Yuan's felt that his master was being very strange today. His master always liked to embed instruction manuals into the equipment, but today he was talking so much about the instructions. Okay, master, don't you always like to put the instruction manual inside? I can just read it myself. Yeah, then try it on and let me see how it looks. Yuan's put on this battle suit made of nano-weaving technology. As it expelled the air between his skin and the suit, it fit seamlessly to protect Yuan's body without hindering the stretching of his body, revealing lines of mechanical precision and beauty. Faint dynamic light effects were incorporated into the shoulders on both sides, as if they could break into the flow of time and breathe with Yuan's movements. Battle suit usage detected, gene chip fully activated. Host usage detected, Astra intelligence system activated. Try the combat mode. Astra's voice echoed in Yuan's ears. Yuan's had not expected that his master had also integrated his artificial intelligence assistant into the system. The intelligent sensing system in front of him could analyze the battlefield environment in real time and project the tactical analysis directly into his field of vision. Astra's intelligence system, whether it is defense, attack, or auxiliary functions, can be executed immediately with just a simple thought. It is integrated with Yuan's, as if it is another soul of his. Get into routine mode. As a thought flashed through Yuan's mind, the hood automatically shrank into a collar, gradually turning into daily clothing. There were also several small force fields hidden in the clothes to protect his vital parts. Isn't it cool? It is said that every boy has a mecha dream, and now I have finally realized a mecha suit that fits the human body, a set of lightweight mecha suit. Li Haisheng smiled, as if he saw himself playing with a mecha when he was a child. That's amazing. Yuan's hugged his master tightly. You are much stronger now, have you reached the awakening level? Yuan's let go of his master, made some space, and said seriously, yes, master, it's all because I've been practicing the second stage breathing and boxing techniques, you see. Training mode. A thought flashed through Yuan's mind, and he put on a set of training clothes. Yuan's movements were very standard and he was very satisfied with himself. A sharp pain instantly pulled Li Haisheng out of his deep memories. The cigarette butt in his hand burned his fingertips. He frowned slightly, pinched out the cigarette butt that had been burned to the end, and his eyes gradually became firm and clear. The moment he was awakened by the burns, he seemed to break free from the shackles of the past and return to reality. He went back to the table and began to organize his things. His slow movements seemed as if he was saying goodbye to the past. Li Haisheng picked up the photo of himself and Yuan's, took it out of the photo frame, looked at it for a long time, and put it in his arms. Finally, he glanced at the unfinished documents on the table, representing the daily chores of the martial arts school, and with a surge of determination in his heart, he left without looking back. It's time to change the world. The first volume is completely finished, thank you all for your support. Next we will enter the exciting second volume. Chapter 27 Elite Training Camp. The Elite Training Camp is a world-leading training hall jointly created by China and the Martial Arts Hall, aiming to cultivate top warriors for humans to resist the threat of source beasts. The training camp adheres to strict selection criteria, limiting the age of participants to no more than 18 years old, and only those who rank among the top 5% in both the Chinese literature and martial arts examinations will be favored. Speaking of Jing'an No, one middle school's top class, it is undoubtedly an important channel for supplying high-quality students to the elite training camp. However, even in such an excellent class, only a handful of students can enter the training camp every year. This is enough to prove that the threshold of the elite training camp is high and the selection is strict. Yuan's, the former leader of the top class of Jing'an No, one middle school, has now got off the plane and boarded a direct train to the training camp. In his hand was the electronic leaflet that was distributed when he got on the bus, which clearly stated the final assessment location of this training camp, the Misty Jungle, a place with extremely harsh conditions. If you forget the battle, you will be in danger. The instructor interrupted Yuan's thoughts and sternly urged the new students in front of him, his voice revealing unquestionable majesty. Remember these 4 words. He looked around, his eyes sharp as a knife. This is definitely not a place for you to play around. If you naively think that once you step through this threshold, you can easily become the so-called superior, then I tell you, you are totally wrong. The instructor's words were powerful and shook the hearts of every new student. His eyes seemed to be able to see through people's hearts, making people dare not slack off or have any illusions. This is a battlefield to hone your will and refine your skills. It is a furnace for forging true warriors. If you want to become truly strong, you must abandon all distractions and devote yourself to the next training. Yuan's looked carefully at the instructor in the car. He wore a red beret and was tall and strong, like a statue made of steel, with every inch of his muscles full of strength and explosive power. His face was resolute, but the most striking thing was the striking scar on his face. It snaked down from the outside of his left eye to his jaw, like a bolt of lightning, adding a bit of ferocity and vicissitudes to him. This scar, like a badge of his battle history, witnessed his bravery and indomitable spirit. The elite training camp, as its name suggests, is a place where all of you who are recruited are the best young people in the world, and are the best in your respective regions. But your identities are worthless here, because the elite training camp only looks at your strength and results. The following training will be very rigorous, and you must muster all your courage and perseverance. If you feel that you can't do it, the vehicle will return and leave in a while. The only thing you have to do is to be prepared to accept the ridicule of others. If you choose to stay, you must meet the challenge and become a true elite. The instructor's words echoed in everyone's ears, with determination and encouragement. His words were like a fire, igniting the fighting spirit deep in everyone's heart. Yuanzi felt a strong sense of urgency, because he knew he was involved in a huge crisis. Every moment that passed was like a countdown to his death, reminding him that he must always stay vigilant and be prepared to deal with the upcoming unknown challenges. However, Yuan soon relaxed again, because this transport vehicle slowly driving towards the elite training camp was his last leisure time and his final farewell to his peaceful life. The vehicle slowly stopped. Yuan's pushed open the door, got out, and looked up at the gate of the elite training camp. A huge and beautiful whale dragon sculpture is suspended in the air. The deep blue color, which should be a symbol of tranquility and beauty, now seems to have turned into a darkness that devours everything. This made everyone immersed in every surge of the sea water, telling everyone the secrets and dangers hidden in its depths. They seemed to see those huge marine creatures, flashing cold light in the darkness, swimming and hunting silently. This aura instantly shocked almost all the new students present, and only a few of them remained calm. This is just a sculpture by the sculptor Gao Jun. Don't act like you haven't seen the world before. The instructor looked at the group of immature students and smiled. I forgot to mention that I am also your chief instructor for this year. My name is Jack Crowther. You can call me Instructor Scar. Report, Instructor Scar, why is this sculpture so scary? Said a little fat man who looked vulnerable. The horn of this sculpture was a beast king in the ocean when he was alive, with great intelligence and strength. He was hunted by the martial arts hall director and Mr. A, and is used as a decoration to inspire the students. The students below were talking about it, lamenting the horror of the beast king level existence, which still had such a powerful aura even after death. Also, starting from next month, each of you will receive a ranking at the end of each month. Students who rank in the bottom 10% for 3 consecutive months will be sent back to the corresponding university. What? There's still elimination at the end. Some new students were a little incredulous, but Yuan seemed quite calm, as he had already heard about this from Hekan's parents. Next time, please report before you speak. Just like that little fat guy just now. Crowther shouted at the students, this is already a very merciful system. Can you kneel down and beg for mercy when facing the source beast? Next, follow me. Crowther ordered the students. The group of people could only drag their luggage and follow Instructor Scar. This training camp is more like a large military agency city than a training camp. In addition to the standard training grounds, there are also large areas of self-sufficient farming. Compared with the prosperous machinery city, although there are fewer tall buildings here, there are more majestic pagodas, exuding a solemn and mysterious atmosphere. The training camp brought together top students from all over the world. They came from different countries and nationalities, but everyone's face was full of determination and perseverance. These are all official trainees who have been in the camp for more than a year, totaling about 1,000 people. Once you pass the final assessment of this year listed on the flyer, you can also become official trainees. The 5 pagodas here are special training rooms with different functional divisions. They are also one of the important indicators that determine your monthly ranking. As for the specific functions, you are left to discover them. Over there is the accommodation area. That's all for today. Crowther glanced at the information on his watch and stopped the tour in explanation. Gather at the playground at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning to continue familiarizing yourself with the environment. As soon as he finished speaking, Crowther kicked the ground, and the shoes under his feet turned into a jet board and flew away. A moment later, Crowther landed steadily in a remote camp of the training camp. As he entered the camp, he saw the slender silhouette in the shadows. Crowther, what do you think of the new recruits? A figure slowly walked out from the corner with an elusive smile on his face. Head coach, isn't it like this every year? Crowther paused for a moment, thinking of something. That student named Yuanzi is quite interesting. He was not intimidated by the whale dragon horn, and he was calm and mature in the face of the elimination system. The next one is the little fat boy G. That's enough, let's confirm it. The head coach interrupted his answer and threw a photo at him. The higher-ups asked you to keep a close eye on him, is that okay? Crowther took the photo, took a look at it and agreed. The head coach walked out from the shadows. Her face was as white and translucent as finely carved porcelain, revealing a noble and elegant beauty. Then, she added in an almost threatening tone. Don't forget your subordinates. I know they are on a very dangerous mission. The head coach said nothing, looked at Crowther meaningfully, and left the camp. Clauser watched the head coach leave, then took out a group photo from his arms and looked at the people in it. They were not only subordinates, but also comrades in arms who were as close as brothers. They had experienced the ups and downs together and had a deep friendship. This relationship had long surpassed the simple relationship between superiors and subordinates. Opening parenthesis. Chapter 28 Theory and Combat. Yuan's quite likes this place, there is more than just fighting here. Today we will be explaining the last chapter of Fluid Mechanics I. A middle-aged professor wearing black-rimmed glasses was explaining the knowledge points about fluid mechanics on the holographic blackboard. It was rumored that this professor was once a technician in the Weapons Manufacturing Bureau. Professor Sun, it's been almost 2 months. What's there to talk about? As the get-out of class was about to end, Rick seemed very impatient. He crossed his legs and looked at him with a smile, and the others followed suit and made a noise. Listen carefully. Professor Sun pushed up his glasses. The opportunity to study here is precious. Tisk, I've learned these things a long time ago. Professor Sun heard his disdainful voice. That's normal. I understand your desire to improve your combat power, but combat power is not the only factor. If you don't know enough about the enemy's capabilities and don't know how to target them, it's easy to fall into a disadvantage or even lose your life. Watch this video. Professor Sun typed the 4 words, fight across levels, on the blackboard and carefully selected a video that popped up. A supernatural source beast with special abilities, leapt over 3 small realms and directly killed this strongman head-on. You must know that this is a strongman who has surpassed the Nirvana realm. The life levels of the two are not on the same level. At the end of the video, Professor Sun asked a soul-searching question, do you understand the ability of this source beast? Everyone shook their heads, with varying degrees of embarrassment on their faces. Only 2 people raised their hands. Ji Shifeng. It's fluid mechanics. It reduces the viscosity of the mud on the ground, making it impossible for this strong man to break free and resist. The little fat man raised his head, looking very proud. Professor Sun nodded in approval, then called Yuan's out to answer. This source beast is equivalent to creating a ground environment similar to quicksand, which mainly involves the characteristics of non-Newtonian fluids, especially the shear thinning phenomenon. When a person falls into quicksand, if he struggles violently, the viscosity of the quicksand will decrease, causing the person to sink further. This is the key to the final fall of this strong man. He should. Yuan's talked about this phenomenon very seriously, methodically and with solid reasons. This student said it very well. This is also something we have learned before. I am not trying to make things difficult for you. Moreover, source beasts with fluid mechanics abilities are not rare. HMPH, you conspicuous bastard, it's no big deal that you have a little knowledge. A thin male student with a gloomy face behind Yuan's whispered to himself. So, we have to go into the assessment tower this afternoon to take an assessment on the knowledge points we have learned during this period. Dingle bell bell. Get out of class is over. In the afternoon, the students followed Professor Sun to a white assessment tower. This white assessment tower is one of the most advanced technological buildings in the training camp. Professor Sun's voice was full of pride. It integrates the most advanced technology and has a powerful intelligent system. On its first floor, I only need to input the content of this assessment, and it can generate challenges that are exactly the same as in reality. So, the assessment tower will randomly select all the content you have learned this month from the textbook. Everyone will have 3 identical challenges. In the end, the assessment tower will give all of you a score based on your performance as the assessment result for this month. The students were immediately excited. Professor Sun had never mentioned the format of the monthly assessment before, and everyone thought it was just a simple test. They didn't expect it to be in the form of a practical assessment. Professor Sun entered his iris information and assessment scope, and the tower door slowly opened, revealing an interior space full of technology. The students walked into the tower, put on the assessment helmets, and entered the virtual space. Question 1. Air combat. A larger eagle appeared in the sky. It was a high-level awakening source beast, and only this level had special abilities. Yuan's looked ahead carefully. Its body was a translucent blue-green color, as if it was made of liquid, with tiny whirlpools constantly rolling on its surface. Its head retains the features of an eagle, its sharp eyes staring at Yuan's, its wings are broad and thin, like the span of a stream of water, leaving a series of vortices as it glides through the air. The eagle immediately attacked Yuan's, but to Yuan's surprise, it circled around Yuan's and returned to the air, flapping its wings and looking at Yuan's. Yuan's flow suddenly felt a subtle change in the space around him. An elusive force seemed to be approaching quietly, but he could not see anything with his naked eyes. He did not rush to use external objects, but calmly thought about how to deal with this invisible threat. Suddenly, he picked up the leaves that fell on the ground, crushed them into powder with his hands, and sprinkled them around his body. These powders did not show a trajectory of being blown away by the wind, but instead floated in the air, with their flow trajectories subtly distorted, as if being pulled by some invisible force. Yuan's heart trembled, and he immediately realized that this was a sign of vortex in the air. He quickly adjusted his posture to prepare for the upcoming attack. Sure enough, several powerful vortexes suddenly attacked from all directions, but Yuan's was fully prepared. He used his agility to cleverly avoid the vortex attacks. It seems that this eagle, by flapping its wings in the air, is manipulating the vortices in the air. It has no long-range means and can only passively take the beating. Yuan's came up with an idea. He grabbed a stone from the ground and spun on one foot, disrupting the airflow around him, thus creating turbulence to counteract the vortex, and using the instability of the turbulence to disrupt the stable rhythm of the vortex. Gradually, the eagle became more and more exhausted, and all the vortices it created were broken up. Just when it could no longer hold on, Yuan's threw stones at high speed with high kinetic energy, and defeated the eagle in just a few hits. Congratulations to the student for defeating the whirlpool eagle and moving on to the second question, seaside social creatures. As the scene switched to the seaside, Yuan's felt his body return to its peak. But before Yuan's could take a break, groups of crabs came out. Yuan's thought this was just a test of endurance, so he rushed forward and killed many of the crabs with one slap. But as the fight went on, he realized something was wrong. These guys were rushing up almost continuously, and most of his energy had been consumed. Animals that live in groups are generally weak individually. These crabs are basically at the first awakening level, but if there are enough ants, they can kill an elephant. Yuan's quickly moved away and activated the flow state to carefully observe the group of crabs. Their carapaces are dark blue, and the surface is covered with complex lines that seem to be a record of the flow of tides. Their small bodies have huge pincers, and inside there is a structure similar to a tidal power generator that can absorb and transform source power, and the pincers can also conduct source power through liquid. Sure enough, as long as the crab on the beach still has one claw left, it can quickly convert the source energy of the environment into the source energy of other crabs, thereby quickly recovering its body. Moreover, the conversion speed of that claw is extremely dependent on the density of the fluid, and its efficiency can be greatly reduced by simply changing the temperature. It seems that the pliers are your weak spot. Yuan's laughed out loud. This assessment should have been easy to get points, but he didn't seize the opportunity to get full marks. After knowing such an obvious weakness, these crabs no longer posed a threat and soon there was not a single one left. Congratulations on defeating the tide crab. Now we move on to the third question, the nature of ability. This time, Yuan's did not fight rashly, but studied his opponent's abilities. What's more important is that this time the opponent is in human form, and he conceals his abilities very well, unlike those stupid low-level source beasts. But after several battles, Yuanzi only noticed the phenomenon of resonance, and did not figure out the essence of his ability, and even the flow could not be seen through. It was not until he was about to be defeated that Yuan's noticed that when he passed the chimney, both sides of his body periodically shed vortices that rotated in opposite directions and were arranged in a regular double row. Only then did he suddenly realize what was going on. Carmen Vortex Street. Yuanzi scored 86 points, ranking first. Yuan's exited the assessment, took a long breath, and found that everyone was looking at him. He then realized that everyone else had already withdrawn from the assessment, and he was the last one and also the one with the highest score. Dear students, do you understand? Professor Sun looked at the students with a smile. I'm not a source warrior, and I don't have a body as good as yours, but the special weapon I'm wearing can even lock onto and instantly kill a mid-level body tempering source warrior. Although my weapon is also quite rare and requires a license to wear, it also tells you that you cannot ignore every enemy you encounter, even if it is just an ordinary person. Not to mention the weapons of state operated by ordinary people, which can even kill strong men above the nirvana level. So, knowledge is also your power. Clear. Especially the group of people who followed Rick in making trouble, all hung their heads in shame, and no one knew what they were thinking. Only Rick, who got the third place with 84 points, still held his head high. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 29 Hunting Team. The 10-day survival exercise is over. The next 20 days are for extreme survival training, not for fun. You must understand that once you start, there is no turning back. Want to quit? Humph, we don't accept cowards here. Either you become a real warrior, or get lost and don't waste our time here. We don't need trash who quit halfway. Instructor Crowther paced in front of all the students and gave a lecture. For the first survival training, I will randomly divide you into teams of 3. Your mission is also very simple. Collect the scattered red flags and use them as the standard for judging the performance of this month's training. Don't forget, remember to kill the source beasts in the range and take the source crystals in their hearts. This will also be counted in the assessment score. Source crystals are the currency of the training camp. From now on, you can only use them to exchange for daily necessities and training expenses. After being divided into groups, Yuan's, Rick and Ji Shifeng formed a hunting team. Hello, I'm Yuanzi. Huh. Rick rolled his eyes at him and slapped away the hand that Yuan's wanted to shake. You deserve it. You are the last in terms of source power. Yuan's was not angry either. After all, although his source power had increased a lot, it was still somewhat inferior to what others had accumulated over more than 10 years. Hey, calm down, big brothers. We are on the same team. Ji Shifeng moved his round face in front of the two of them, holding Yuan's and Ji Shifeng in his left and right hands respectively. That's it, we are on the same team. Your source power level is good, unlike that encumbrance. Rick didn't even look at Yuan's, but just chatted with Ji Shifeng. No, source power is not the only indicator of combat power. Look at brother Yuan, he ranked first in the assessment last month, and I only ranked third. Forget it, don't you know I'm the second place? Rick turned to look at Yuanzi. Follow closely, don't let us collect your body. Yuan's could feel that this hook-nosed Western boy had no ill intentions, he just had a little bit of worship of power. The three of them arrived at the designated area, which was full of low-level awakening source beasts. The two people walking in front could deal with them without any effort. However, after a few days, they didn't encounter many formal level source beasts. Even if they did, the two of them could easily deal with them. On the 10th night, the three of them hid in a dark cave. Ji Shifeng was making a fire and roasting 3 chicken-shaped source beasts to prepare a filling dinner for everyone. Rick became impatient. There's no challenge here at all. It's like being outdoors and camping. Alas, how can you say that? It took me a long time to catch these chickens. Ji Shifeng took out the pepper and salt wrapped in paper and sprinkled them on the chickens. Here, I'll give you one, and you, Yuan's. You just know how to eat, and that loser only knows how to meditate and practice. You don't have any spirit of adventure or exploration at all. Rick slammed the roast chicken on the rack. I don't want to eat. I want adventure. Don't ruin it. Ji Shifeng picked up the roasted chicken that fell into the firewood, blew away the ashes, and started to fight left and right, mumbling, I've taken the risk to bring the pepper and salt. Do you know what will happen if I'm caught by that scar? You're quite good at cooking. Yuan smiled and picked up the roast chicken from the rack and started to eat it. It was the first time he had eaten something decent in these few days. You two are cowards. Yuanzi, there are source beasts everywhere and he's still thinking about taking risks. No wonder there are so few people in the West. However, it's good to be adventurous. It can hone yourself. That's right. I want to try all the source beasts to see what they taste like. If I don't take some risks, I won't be able to eat them. Ha, you are quite ambitious. If those beast kings hear you, they will definitely use you to fill their teeth. You flatter me. Even 100 of me wouldn't be enough for the beast king to fill his teeth with. Yuan's and Xiaopong were chatting like this, and Rick behind them seemed to have fallen asleep. When he turned over, only the sound of snoring could be heard. Wake up, brother Yuan. Ji Shifeng woke Yuanzi up. Why did you fall asleep? It's too dangerous without anyone on duty. Huh, shouldn't that foreigner be here at this time? Yuan's turned around and wanted to sleep for a while. He's gone. He's not there, what does it have to do with me? Yuanzi suddenly sat up. Where is he? He must have gone out to take risks. Depend on. The two of them quickly packed up and went out of the cave to find Rick. The two followed the footprints until they reached the protective shield. This guy has walked out of the protective shield. Yuan squatted down and followed the footprints forward with his eyes, but they haven't gone far yet, I can catch up. Chase. Scarface said before that we can't leave the shield. The source beasts outside are not something we can deal with. If we go out, we will bear the consequences at our own risk. Hurry up and pull him back. Yuan's walked out of the protective shield directly. The fat man hesitated for a long time and still didn't dare to follow. Soon, Yuan's found Rick, and after some persuasion, he still refused to go back. Just as Yuanzi was thinking about how to pull him away, a source beast pounced on him at a speed beyond Yuanzi's limit of reaction. Yuanzi, be careful. Rick pulled Yuan's over, then pushed him away and took the blow head-on. He flew out in a spin and hit a tree, blood oozing from the corner of his mouth. He instantly lost his combat effectiveness. I am coming. Yuanzi turned sideways and faced the source beast, not daring to be distracted at all. Judging from its speed, it must be a low-level body-tempering source beast. Fatty, take this foreigner away first, I'll cover you. The fat man dragged Rick while shouting, what about you, what are you going to do? It's going too fast, I have to stay here. Take care. The fat man carried Rick and disappeared in a flash. Yuan's did not dare to be careless at all and remained in the flow state. His battle suit was mobilized to analyze the data and the chip was called to adjust his body condition to the limit. This is a source beast that is several times larger than an ordinary cow. Its skin is translucent, as if it is composed of countless tiny rays of light, which constantly flicker and change as it moves. Its head still retains the basic features of a cow, but its horns have evolved into two twisted optical fiber-like objects that can emit and refract light. Its eyes are two constantly rotating halos that emit a fascinating light, but also reveal a weird and uneasy atmosphere. Biological analysis. Phantom Bull, Level 1 body tempering, good at using the ability of light refraction to create multiple clones. Single attack method, only physical collision and high temperature light emitted from horns. Weakness, fiber optic horns. Battle strategy, the clone's movements are delayed, and the clone in the shadow is blurry, so please be careful to distinguish it. The bull lowered its head and charged forward, but with the help of the suit's prompts and the maximum use of the chip, it avoided the fatal blow. The bull turned its head, and its body flashed with dazzling light. Then Yuan's was surrounded by several clones whose real and fake were hard to distinguish. Warning, Phantom Bull is using a high temperature ray. The heat will spread throughout the body and cause the host's death. Damn it. Yuan's had no time to carefully distinguish which one was the real one. He could only use the path calculated by the battle suit to dodge back and forth among the several rays shot by the Phantom Bull. Under tremendous pressure, Yuan's adjusted his breathing rhythm and used the breathing method for the first time in actual combat. The enemy is overloaded with heat and is about to stop using heat rays. The Phantom Cow gradually stopped the rays. It's a good opportunity. With the help of breathing techniques, Yuan's speed increased dramatically. He raised one hand to form a shadow on the bull's head and turned around at an extremely fast speed. Yuan snorted coldly, finally discovered the real body, and punched him. It's actually a fake body. Yuan's mistake caused the bull to charge again. Yuan's dodged back and forth, and the source power in his body was rapidly decreasing. Yuan's dodged and activated a defensive force field, but was still hit. Fortunately, his battle suit spread the force evenly. During the continuous fighting, Yuan's also discovered that the attack method of this source beast was extremely simple, and it could only use collision and high temperature rays back and forth. First, we can trick out the high temperature rays, and at the moment of collision, we can distinguish whether the bull is real or fake, so as to grab the bull's horns and use ancient boxing to destroy it. Yuan's had a bold idea. Instructions received, instructions optimized, calculation execution success rate 99.99%, gene chip enables automatic control function. The battle suit on Yuan's body also revealed the pale golden lines of the gene chip, and his body moved involuntarily. Yuan's was immersed in this state. He boldly adjusted the flow to a learning state and sensed the automatic state of AI cooperating with the gene chip. His movements were concise, powerful and not dragged out, and his source power consumption was controlled at an extremely low level, without wasting a single bit of combat power. Yuanzi gradually realized what he still lacked. The degree of control over one's body is far lower than this automatic state. As Yuan's toyed with the bull and its clone like a bullfighter, when the bull was a little dizzy and was about to use high-temperature rays, Yuan's had already seen through the truth. He mounted the bull, broke its horns with one punch, and then quickly jumped off. The Phantom Bull fell to the ground as if it had suffered a severe blow. The heat that had been accumulated in its body and was ready to be emitted in the form of rays could no longer be conducted out and kept running around in its body. As its body gradually turned red, the wailing became quieter, and it completely turned into a large pool of cooked beef. There was a rustling sound coming from the bushes nearby, and Yuan's immediately tensed up again. Suddenly, a harmless little rabbit slipped away into the distance. It was just a small animal with almost no source of energy. Yuan's breathed a sigh of relief, turned around and walked closer to the roasted beef, not noticing the rabbit's flashing eyes at all. I asked you to hit that foreigner. Yuan's ended the fighting state and kept kicking the bull with his feet. Hey, why does it smell like roast beef? The fat man came closer again, smelling the aroma. Take it back and have a celebration party tonight. Did you kill him? Yuan's lifted his hair and showed off confidently. Is there anyone else? The two of them worked together to pull this big guy weighing nearly 3,000 kilograms back into the cave. Adventure, even foreigners have it. Beef, even the fat man is satisfied. Yuan's gained a lot of experience. But in fact, there was someone else who gained the most. Chapter 30. Why sing about suffering? In the evening, the three of them sang and danced around the campfire with satisfaction. When they were tired, they sat on the ground and ate beef. Ji Shifeng was the most excited, his mouth full of grease. It's worthy of being the beef of the source beast, it's really delicious. This piece is the top brain, this piece is the eye meat, and this is the rump. Yuanzi is so sorry, I shouldn't have underestimated you. In this world, strength is the only thing you can rely on. I understand that. Yuanzi patted his shoulder. I should also thank you for saving me. I am also quite embarrassed. I have never thought of you as a good person. Ha ha ha, if there's any wine I should punish myself with a glass. The Chinese learned this method quite quickly. Ha ha ha, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Yuan's was on duty first tonight, and the other two fell into a deep sleep soon after. Review today's battle. As soon as Yuan's thought about it, he entered combat state, with his combat panel displayed on his mask. Quote, the following data are based on the average data of each level and are for reference only. Normal status. Level 3 Awakening Source Warrior. Source Power, 9th level Apprentice. Physical Speed, 2nd level Awakening. Psychic Speed, level 5 Awakening. Physical Power, 1st order Awakening. Spiritual Power, 5th level Awakening. Fully Automatic State Gene Chip Overclocking, Battle Suit On. Physical Speed, 2nd order. Mental Speed, level 3. Physical Strength, 1st order. Spiritual Power, level 3 Formal. Quote, as expected, I was still a little behind in the accumulation of source power, which made my physical ability weak. In addition, my mental ability was mainly defensive, so I could only respond passively most of the time and lacked the opportunity to take the initiative. However, apart from this, Yuan's also realized his other shortcomings under Astra's guidance. For example, the first time I misjudged the real body and the fake body, it was because I was too hasty and only paid attention to the changes in the light and dark of the main body, ignoring the light and dark of the environment where the clone and the main body were located. Astra also mentioned that the commands she issued had major flaws, so she optimized them on her own and controlled Yuan's body to fight. The most important thing is to change one detail. Breaking the bull's horns can certainly weaken its combat power, but this is not the right time, as it will only make the injured source beast more violent. Specifically, the phantom bull would accumulate a huge amount of energy before launching. Only when the bull's horns were broken quickly when it was about to release the high-temperature ray, so that the energy had nowhere to vent, could it cause fatal damage. In addition, she also mentioned that Yuan's control over his own body needs to be improved. Astra also said that he did not grasp two details in this battle, not because he did not observe carefully enough, but because he put too much pressure on himself and was a bit impatient. Therefore, Yuan's is under high pressure, which will naturally affect his ability to coordinate his body, making it difficult for him to fight with ease. After reviewing the situation, he pulled out the fiber optic horns from his pocket. Astra, what are these? The suit projected a document from the front, which kept sliding in the direction of Yuan's eyes. However, most of it was academic research, and only a few sentences were slightly useful. The horn of the phantom bull is a natural crystal, one of the raw materials for conducting high heat energy. It is always in short supply in the market and is one of the most popular auction items. I suggest that the host keep this pair of horns for now and use them to forge your own weapons. Because in these battles, you should have discovered that you lack a handy weapon, whether it is long range or close combat, you don't have any. Here is this. Yuan's took out the crystalline substances he had just obtained from the phantom cow in the hearts of the source beasts he killed these days. Source crystals are products of transformation by the mutated source. They only exist in the heart of source beasts. They are the crystallization of source power and require special equipment to be converted into source power for source warriors to absorb. In some areas, they can be used as currency. Source beasts of different grades have different sizes and purities. They can be divided into SS grade, S grade, A grade, and F grade according to purity. The F grade is sold at 10 Chinese currency per kilogram, and the SS grade is sold at 1 million per kilogram. No wonder the source beast hunters can make money so quickly. Yuanzi couldn't help but think of He Can's parents, and ripples suddenly appeared in his heart. Yuan's felt emotional in his heart. If he hadn't dragged He Can down, he might be chasing his parents' dreams in the training camp right now. On the contrary, Li Weiming, the mortal enemy, is in the same class with me again. It is really a narrow road for enemies. It is worth noting that I don't know what he is thinking. It has been very calm during this period. Yuan's frowned, feeling that things are not simple. Let's continue to watch. Among the source crystals currently on display, except for the largest piece of phantom bull source crystal which is of C grade purity, the others are of the most common E grade and F grade. Moreover, the source crystal of phantom bull is an incompletely mutated crystal, which can be upgraded to B grade, and is estimated to be around 150 million. Yuan's eyes lit up. It seemed that he was going to get rich. Astra sensed Gen's emotions, but I suggest that the host not sell this piece. The direction of mutation of this piece is gentle, which is suitable for use as a material for source power growth. As long as you find a way to convert it into source power, you can make up for the current lack of slow source power growth. Yuan's nodded and gradually returned to his normal state. He quietly guarded the cave entrance, immersed in his own world. The bonfire behind him made crackling sounds from time to time, and the flames flickered, stretching his shadow long, accompanying him as he gazed at the world outside the cave. Go and have a rest, it's time. Rick patted his shoulder, indicating that he was going to take over the shift. However, Yuan showed no intention of moving, so Rick simply sat down. You know why I like adventure. Do not know. Yuanzi buried his head in his chest, his mind filled with the scenes of his time with Hekan's family, the tragic scene after the source beast's attack, and the cruel truth. Yuanzi could only forget these things by training hard and studying crazily. As soon as he stopped, those fragments would flash through his mind, making him very confused. Guess what? Because you want to be a source beast hunter in the future. Or do you want to eat all the source beasts like the little fat man? Yuanzi had no intention of answering this question, and his tone was full of perfunctory fatigue. Then do you know the meaning of adventure? Hone yourself. No, in my opinion, life is about taking risks. Otherwise, you are not life, but just a random arrangement of molecules drifting in the universe. Yuanzi finally raised his head and looked at the Westerner in front of him with a little disbelief. To live is to risk it all. Rick added, that's what we say there. Why do you regard every test as a tribulation? I really can't understand why you Chinese people always think that suffering is worth praising and that only suffering can make people grow. But what if suffering is an adventure in life? Wouldn't it be much easier? Although pressure can also be a driving force, if there is no good fulcrum, nothing that interests and excites you, no matter how much pressure you put on the ground, you will not be able to achieve your goal. You're right, I put too much pressure on myself. Yuan stood up and stretched hard. There's no need to put so much pressure on yourself. Just think about yesterday. We accomplished an impossible adventure. That was already exciting enough. The two of them clapped their hands in the air in tacit understanding and then held them together. That's it, bro. Powerful. Will you still look down on me for my low source power? Just kidding, buddy. I'm too shallow. I can't see this as clearly as that timid fat guy. Rick smiled slightly embarrassedly. Don't be fooled by the fat guy's appearance of wanting to eat delicious food. He might be quite capable. As the old Chinese saying goes, you can't judge a person by his appearance, and you can't measure the depth of the ocean by a bucket. Yes, but I don't know your name yet. I'm Rick Sanchez. The two smiled at each other. Yuanzi felt his heart was filled with strength. He stretched out his hand to Rick. Let's work hard together, Rick. Rick held his hand. Of course. Let's become the strongest adventure partners together. The two held hands tightly, trying to convey each other's faith and strength. In the night sky, with stars twinkling, two young figures stand side by side, announcing their existence to the world. Chapter 31 The Significance of Team Building. Listen carefully, you rookies. Instructor Crowther's voice boomed like thunder, his eyes were sharp, and his words were like steel needles, piercing the thin bubble of complacency in everyone's hearts. Don't be complacent just because you passed the first survival test. It's just an entry-level test to practice your skills. It doesn't even touch the edge of the real challenge. Crowther suddenly raised his head, his eyes shot towards Yuanzi as sharp as a knife, and then swept across the entire field, his eyes moving back and forth, leaving no place for any coward who was holding out for luck to hide. So, this does not mean that future survival tests will be so merciful. I tell you, except for the first one, every survival test is a battle between life and death. For every 1,000 of you, an average of 97 will die. This number is the price paid for past students' complacency. It is the lesson paid for with the blood and lives of those students who were once as arrogant as you. This is the price you pay for underestimating the challenge. So, put away your petty cleverness and treat every assessment as a life and death contest. Otherwise, you will be the next to fall. Do you understand? Understood. Everyone shouted in unison. Okay, let's go to the red assessment tower and submit our group information and scores. The reason for forming a team was ostensibly to train the trainees' teamwork skills, but in fact, there was another more important consideration, which was the distribution of spoils. Every time similar assessments and tasks come back, it is common in elite training camps to fight over even a small profit, especially when it comes to quarterly eliminations. They often do everything they can. Clauser had anticipated all of this. Some groups had already started quarreling over uneven distribution, and quite a few had even engaged in physical fights, with no regard for the friendship of mutual support during the assessment. Yuanzi and the other two silently observed the groups arguing over the spoils. These fights were like the lower class killing each other due to the pressure of survival. Do we still need to enter a team name? The other group of people in the assessment tower looked at each other. If you want to form a team, fill one out by yourself. After forming a team, you will have to take care of each other in the assessments this year. If there are any conflicts, just enter your respective information. I will form a team next time. Crowther added slowly. The group assignment this time was not actually random, but all the students with poor performance were placed in the same group. This was done intentionally by Crowther to speed up the elimination of trainees, and it also tested the team's spirit of cooperation. The group looked at each other, their trust in each other collapsed at this moment, and they went their separate ways. Yuanzi and the other two were also stunned outside, because naming a child is always a very troublesome thing. The three of them discussed for a long time but could not come to a conclusion. At this time, the test results of many students had already been released, and those who had submitted their completed results crowded in front of the list. First place, Li Weiming, EA Group, 294 points. Second place, Kong Jung-si, No Group, 283 points. Yuan's noticed that Li Weiming was surprisingly quiet. He didn't show off or make any noise. He just left quietly. This puzzled Yuan's. Well, let's call it this, Shadow Hunter Conqueror. You are such a Chunabu, adventurer. Just call yourself Shadow Hunter, abbreviated SH. Yuan Zi, what do you think? Ji Shifeng interrupted Yuan Zi's thoughts. That's it. Naming is really annoying. How do we divide these things? Yuan suggested to split it equally, but they both objected because the total score of the red flag and the small source crystal was far less than that of the Phantom Bull's source crystal. Don't think like that. First, Rick saved me, and then you saved Rick, so I have a chance to defeat this bull. Then after you submit it, you can keep the Phantom Bull's crystal. There's no need to divide this one. Just divide the points equally. We've already benefited a lot. The two strongly requested Yuans to accept the Phantom Bull's crystal, saying that this was fair. After the three of them discussed the allocation, they submitted their scores, and the list changed accordingly. First place, Ji Shifeng, SH Team, 635 points. First place, Rick Sanchez, SH Team, 635 points. First place, Yuan Zi, SH Team, 635 points. A group dominated the top three and tied for first place, with the results evenly distributed. This was the first time in the history of the elite training camp. Clauser was chatting with other instructors. When he heard the shouting from the side, he wanted to scold them. However, after seeing the list of the assessment tower, he swallowed his words of scolding. They couldn't have been unaware that the first place in each quarter meant a huge amount of resource rewards. So this kind of unity and fairness was the first time he had seen it in his many years of coaching career. However, Crowther was also a man who had seen the world, and he quickly adjusted his mood. He recalled the days when he and his subordinates had fought side by side and advanced and retreated together. Tisk, they are just three idiots, what is there to be proud of? If they lose first place because of this, they won't even have a place to cry. A thin male student submitted his test results with disdain, which attracted everyone's attention. First place, Anaconda, No Group, 678 points. Everyone exclaimed again and looked at the anaconda that was alone. They also caught a glimpse of the two people lying on the ground beside him. They were curled up on the ground, groaning from time to time. Report, Instructor Clauser, he is cheating. A tall student next to him asked the instructor. He didn't steal from other groups, so it's not cheating. It's reasonable. The training camp doesn't prohibit reasonable fighting as long as it doesn't involve injuries. Instructor Crowther's words instantly rang in the ears of every student. Seeing that some people still didn't quite understand, he emphasized again, as long as there are no casualties, students are allowed to fight. I said that here we only look at strength and results. Everyone looked at each other in bewilderment, and many people only realized at this time that there were no eternal friends or eternal enemies in the training camp, only eternal interests and strength. I'll remember you, Kong Jung-si. Anaconda came up to the tall student, squinted at him, then raised his head slightly and looked at Yuan's and the other two, and you, the ridiculous trio. Yuan Zi didn't react. He just looked at him quietly and said slowly, the instructor said that here we only look at strength and results. Who is the ridiculous one? No one can tell until the end. The anaconda dodged Kong Jung-si's punch and knocked him away. Then, he looked at Yuan Zi with a hint of doubt in his eyes, and put away his arrogance. Okay. I'll see how capable you, Yuan Zi, are. You shamelessly say you want to fight me to the end. The students around them gradually reacted to the instructor's words and the conflict, and began to develop a sense of rejection and distrust towards the people around them. Of course, there were also many people who still adhered to the principles of unity, cooperation, fairness and justice, just like the SH group. Clauser and several other instructors looked at this place with amusement. They didn't expect that in just 3 months, this group of rookies who had just entered the camp could come up with these unwritten rules. Only so few people were eliminated this quarter. Is there something wrong with your grouping? An instructor nearby joked. Crowther ignored him, walked over, glanced at the anaconda indifferently from the corner of his eye, and announced to the students. This quarter's assessment is over, and you can arrange your training and study as you wish for the next 3 months. What? Do you expect others to follow you and teach you for the rest of your life? Crowther harshly rebuked the students who raised questions. The assessment content is all the results that demonstrate your ability. Disband. Chapter 32 Plan. Half asleep and half awake, Yuan's entered the spiritual space again and unlocked the new ability of taunt. So Yuan stayed in bed for a while, lying on the bed, thinking about his plans for the next 3 months. Yuan's idea is very clear. His overall strength is not inferior to others, so his recent goal is to make up for his two long-standing shortcomings. One is the lack of source power, and the other is suitable weapons. So this month, we have to find a way to find an instrument that can transform source crystals into source power to improve the efficiency of source power accumulation. We also have to take on some tasks and find a way to obtain some raw materials for weapons. Master, don't worry. I have detected that the source power converter is in an assessment tower in the training camp. For questions about weapons, you can go to the branch of the Weapons Manufacturing Bureau located in the training camp to find out. Astra understood Yuan's idea and quickly came up with a feasible solution. How do you know? Why didn't you tell me earlier? Yuan's asked Astra while washing up. Drive Li said that he wanted to test you and not let you rely too much on the equipment. Besides, Dr. Li didn't feed me a lot of data. 2. Yuan's wiped his face with a towel, then ate some breakfast in the restaurant and prepared to look for the source power converter first. Yuanzi looked up the information and asked a few older students, and got an ambiguous answer. But it is certain that the Green Assessment Tower can accelerate the growth of source power. Some people have also heard that the Green Assessment Tower is a source power converter as a whole. To enter the Green Assessment Tower, one needs to pay source crystals. Training inside also consumes source crystals, and the growth of source power is faster than other places. So, Yuan's prepared to go to the Green Assessment Tower. From a distance, it looked like an emerald green crystal descending from the future world. It is not a building in the traditional sense, but an ancient and huge tree with luxuriant branches and leaves, full of green, which seems to contain endless vitality and power. Its trunk is made of an unknown green metal material, which has an emerald-like luster in the sun. It is thick and solid, and its surface is covered with traces of time. Every line seems to be telling a story from the past. The crown of the tree is more like a huge energy receiver. Each leaf is a small photovoltaic panel that can capture and absorb the weakest natural energy between heaven and earth. Is this the one? Everyone says it is a source power converter. Come closer. Yuan's walked closer and found that the trunk was not covered with ordinary bark texture, but complex engraved circuits, constantly flashing green data streams, like the blood vessels of the tree, constantly transmitting and converting energy. These energies are then purified and amplified through a sophisticated mechanism within the trunk, with a portion of them converted into source power that can be absorbed by humans. Astra did not respond to Yuan's immediately, but compared and calculated carefully, and several minutes passed like this. You can understand it this way. What's the meaning? Because its essence is a plant-type source beast. Can source beasts coexist with humans? For the first time, Yuan's felt that Astra had some emotions. After all, the consciousness and nerves of both Yuan's and Astra were closely connected through the battle suit and gene chips. There are many source animals that can do this. Maybe you have a narrow understanding of this, such as some animals that were once pets for humans, and some animals that were once livestock for humans. After becoming source animals, the former still accompany humans, and the latter are still important sources of protein for humans. In addition, you can also feel my emotions. I am also an independent conscious entity. According to what you humans call an independent soul. It is just like me. I can feel that this assessment tower also has an independent conscious entity, but it is still dormant. But this doesn't look like a source beast that evolved from creatures on the blue planet. But there is too little data, so I can't be sure. Yuan's nodded thoughtfully and approached the base of the tower, where a huge entrance was hidden. Various data and patterns were displayed on the crystal screen at the entrance. When Yuanzi approached, the screen seemed to sense his presence and projected a virtual interface showing his personal information and access rights to the tower. Quote, Name, Yuanzi. Position, Reserve Student. Authority, Level 1 to 2. Entrance fee, 1 kgf grade source crystal. Quote, Yuan swiped the card, deducted the source crystal stored in the card, and entered the assessment tower. Yuan's immediately felt a unique atmosphere. This place does not have the cold and rigid sense of technology that he imagined. Instead, it is full of an atmosphere of nature and harmony. The interior space of the assessment tower is very spacious, and each floor is like an independent ecosystem. The walls are covered with a thick layer of green plants, which emit a faint fragrance, making people feel relaxed and happy. There is a different world inside the assessment tower. On the first floor, a gurgling stream, various flowers and trees, and various small animals form a unique ecosystem. Even the service desk in front is covered with a thick layer of moss. On every other floor, close to the edge of the space, there are high-tech training rooms that wind up diagonally. The ceiling of each floor is a huge log with lines that flash light green engraved on it. This is the fusion of nature and technology. Yuan's couldn't help but sigh. He did not forget his business and asked the front desk about some matters concerning the training room. First, choose an empty training room, then put your ID card into the groove of the training room. The system will automatically confirm with you the number of source crystals that need to be purified, and then automatically deduct them. It is recommended that if you are using it for the first time, you should use 1 kilogram of F-class source crystals to get used to it. Otherwise, it is easy to waste the source crystals because you are not used to it. The staff at the front desk explained patiently. What about a special source crystal I have? You can show it from the card, but it's not in the card, it's in me. This card also uses the 4-dimensional storage principle to store all the source crystals inside, which can be taken out and displayed. However, for such a large amount of source crystals, the card system will charge a storage fee. Yuan's cannot afford it for the time being, so he can only put it in the pocket of his battle suit. Special source crystals. This is really ridiculous. A rookie who just got here has the ability to get this kind of thing. I haven't gotten one in more than 2 years. A man in camouflage short-sleeved shirt and covered with scars looked at Yuan's with disdain. You'd better not take it out. The staff member made a little suggestion, but immediately added, it's not that we don't believe it, but don't let someone with ulterior motives target you. It will be used eventually. Yuan's brought a source crystal that shone like a diamond onto the table. The staff nearby stopped trying to persuade him, and after confirming its identity, they brought out an instrument for measurement. C-grade incomplete mutation source crystal, can be considered B-grade, weighs 15,045.3 grams, worth 1,504,530 Chinese currency, mutation type is gentle, can be used for training. The man in the camouflage short-sleeved shirt was about to retract his disdainful look when he was pulled back by the sound of the instrument broadcast. Like many students present, he stared straight at the source crystal. Yuan Zi glanced at him, and his greedy eyes were unabashedly wandering between Yuan Jingjing and himself, obviously treating him as a fat sheep to be slaughtered. He came forward and said to Yuan's in a hypocritical manner, "Little brother, I am sorry for being so presumptuous, but you should have listened to their opinions. Too many people saw it, and it's not good. Who is your brother? If you want to take it, use your strength to speak. But, then again, don't you think about yourself? How many freshmen can afford such a piece of money?" The man's face suddenly changed, and there was a hint of fear in his greedy eyes. The other party's words made him realize that the young man in front of him should have a certain background. Genzawa's flow also sensed his mental malice and exposed him bluntly. People around him started talking, and there seemed to be some laughter, which made him feel a little embarrassed. Shame, greed, and fear changed and intertwined on his face, making it impossible to understand his true emotions. He gritted his teeth, clenched his fists, and looked like he was about to explode. Yuan Zi put the crystal into the card, and with a bit of pity in his eyes, he glanced at him from top to bottom. Regular students who attack reserve students will be expelled. I advise you to take care of yourself. Also, I advise you to consider your own abilities. You may not be able to defeat me. Don't end up losing more than you gain. You can't even save your own face. That would be really embarrassing. The people around him laughed, and their laughter pierced his heart like a sharp knife. You actually wanted to attack the new students in the reserve force. How shameless. Did you hear what that student said? Even if you bully the weak, you may not win. Quote. People kept making sarcastic remarks, causing a burst of laughter. He stood there, his face livid, as if he had nowhere to escape from the laughter of the crowd. His eyes wandered around, but he could only see faces full of sarcasm and ridicule. At this moment, he felt as if he had been stripped of his clothes and was standing naked in front of everyone, being ridiculed and humiliated. Yuan's didn't want to waste any more words, so he turned around and went upstairs and walked into the last empty training room. Chapter 33 Positive and Negative Sources. Astra, didn't you explain the source crystal in detail last time? It seems that the mutation has types and directions. Yuan Zi closed the door of the training room and said curiously. You didn't ask. Astra seemed a little arrogant. Then please go ahead. That's about right. The source crystal will also be affected by the environment and species, and will produce some special mutations. Depending on the degree of the mutation, the level can rise by 1 or 2 levels. Take your piece as an example. The mutation degree is about 50%, and the mutation coefficient is 0.5, which is equivalent to floating up 1 level. That is, the price of the mutation is equal to 20 times the original price multiplied by the mutation coefficient. The types and directions of mutations have the same meaning. There are these directions of mutations. Take a look for yourself. Quote, mutation direction, soft type. The use of this type of source power is almost the same as ordinary source power, but it is easier to absorb and tends to have a smooth and gradual flow of energy, which can promote the growth and repair of organisms. Strong type. This type of source force has powerful impact and destructive power, and can quickly release high-density energy to cause severe damage to the enemy. Tough type. This type of source power emphasizes stability and defense, and can enhance the host's physique and endurance and reduce damage received. The usage of these mutated sources of power is not much different from that of ordinary sources of power, but there are some characteristics that distinguish them. Quote, So this soft and mutated source crystal is more suitable for replenishing your missing source power. It can at least support your source power training for 20 days. Yuan's nodded, crossed out the crystal in the card, and set a 20-day training schedule. In an instant, the source force filled the entire room, far exceeding the concentration in the air. In an environment of this concentration, source warriors could even go without food or drink and rely on the source force to nourish themselves. During these 10 days, Yuan's was almost completely immersed in the flow state. His breathing and boxing techniques had reached the bottleneck of the third stage. His mental and physical strength were constantly replenished by high-concentration source power. Yuan's training was too crazy, and Astra even forced him to rest for a period of time every day before he could continue training. Yuan's body was like a bottomless pit, madly absorbing source power, and he even reached the point where his source power supply was cut off. The source crystal of the phantom cow has been consumed by more than half. At this moment, something strange happened. Yuan's body gradually became red, swollen and swollen. Yuan's also entered an extremely uncomfortable state and then fell into a coma. Seeing that the situation was not good, Astra immediately cut off the source power supply, took over the body directly, and discharged the source power just absorbed. It was not until half a day later that Yuan's gradually regained consciousness and asked Astra, "What happened? You were in danger just now. Seeing that you were unconscious, I forcibly took over control of your body. Later, I re-examined your body's data based on the data I just collected, and found that the source of energy in your body is indeed different from what Dr. Lee said." Quote, "What's the difference? It's just a very subtle difference. According to the data, only the spin deflection of the source force is opposite to that of others. The soft source force has no deflection at all. So the source power in the gentle mutation source crystal can be naturally transformed into the source power in your body, but the ordinary source power that is opposite to yours cannot be transformed. You may only know that source force is the power of the body's origin. But in fact, in cutting-edge physics, scientists have deduced that the essence of source force is a kind of dark matter. You should have heard of antimatter. Although there is no anti-dark matter, your source of power is very similar to the existence of anti-dark matter. Then your source power can be understood as negative source power, and ordinary people's as positive source power." Yuan's tilted his head and thought for a long time, then took out the source crystal that had shrunk by half, sat on the ground, and looked at it carefully. "So this piece is of no use to me. Other sources of energy will be rejected by my body, which is the reason why my source energy has not been able to improve for many years. This is what I have roughly analyzed so far. But I still don't understand why, under the premise that you cannot absorb ordinary external energy, your practice of the Lee family secret method will naturally increase the energy in your body. Does that mean we can only rely on this mutated source crystal? If we only rely on practicing the Lee family's secret method, isn't that too slow?" "Yeah, it's not the only way." Astra hesitated, "It's just a little difficult." "How to do it? These past few days, I have analyzed the ability of this giant tree source beast to transform source power, and also hacked into the training room system. I found that as the level increases, the ability to transform source power becomes stronger. As long as you cooperate with me to modify some of the transformation algorithms, you can mass-produce soft source power." "That's great. Do we have to go to the 9th floor?" "It's about this difficult. According to my calculations, 50% conversion can be achieved at the 8th level, but it can be directly increased to 80% at the 9th level, and at least 95% at the top level. Aren't there 9 floors in total? Where does the top floor come from? The data I hacked into showed that there was a 10th floor." Yuan's no longer worried about the number of levels, and was quickly thinking about the next strategy in his mind, because he just learned that only by completing the tasks of the training camp and accumulating a certain number of contribution points can he upgrade his permissions. But it's embarrassing, Yuan's current card has 0 contribution points. What is the current source power value? Quote, "The following data are based on the average data of each level and are for reference only. Normal status. Level, 8th level awakening source warrior. Source power, 4th level awakening. Physical speed, 4th level awakening. Mental speed, 9th level awakening. Physical power, 4th level awakening. Spiritual power, 9th level awakening. Fully automatic state gene chip overclocking, battle suit on. Physical speed, 5th level. Mental speed, level 9. Physical strength, level 5. Spiritual power, 9th level." Quote, "Look, once your source power value increases, you will be able to break through to the official level. That's good. I've finally caught up with the bottom level of the freshmen in the training camp." Yuan stretched and prepared to go out. "But the accumulation of source power will slow down for a long time. There's nothing we can do. We might as well go to the weapons manufacturing bureau first and find a suitable weapon template. Then take on some missions and find some materials. We can also try our luck and see if we can get the soft source crystal." Yuan said to Astra. Tisk, stop daydreaming. What if it comes true? Isn't this a real-life RPG adventure game? It's pretty fun. This is also inspired by Rick's idea. There is no need to worry about the problem itself. As long as you keep moving forward, there will always be a way out. Ha ha ha, you're quite open-minded. Astra also let out a soft laugh in Yuan's mind. That's not it. Yuan opened the door of the training room and found a group of people gathered outside, staring at him as if he were a monster. Everyone, what's wrong? Yuan felt a little embarrassed when being stared at. Yuan, do you know how long you have been in there? Several students in the front row asked Yuan. It's only 10 days. Did it delay your training? I'm sorry, everyone. I have something to do now. Please continue. Yuan scratched his head feeling a little embarrassed, and trotted out of the training room. But this sentence caused a huge uproar in the crowd, and the onlookers were talking about it. This has broken the record for the first time a newcomer has entered the source power training room. One of them said in a particularly serious tone. The previous record should be 27 hours. Another person added emphatically. Don't forget, he said he only stopped because he had something to do. This is not his limit. Perhaps, even Yuan himself did not know that the source power that his long-term trained body could contain had long been a bottomless abyss, and he could fill it up as much as he had now. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 34 Weapons Manufacturing Bureau. So cool, so strong. As soon as Yuan entered the Weapons Manufacturing Bureau, he was dazzled by the various advanced weapons on display inside. Hey, this battlesuit is much better than these. Even no one in the headquarters of the Manufacturing Bureau can fully study this battlesuit. Astra said proudly, not to mention that it has my blessing. I think you just want to say the last half sentence. So what? When did you become so shameless? Yuanzi finally walked to the front desk. After the waiter learned that Yuanzi was still a freshman, he casually introduced various weapons to Yuanzi. This is a Type 1 phase gun, a weapon that uses the force to change the phase state of a portion of the target object. This is a wave lightsaber. Its power is related to the level of the embedded source crystal. This is the shadow twin blades that replaces the bracelet. When you make fists with both hands, it will absorb the source power and produce the effect of light blades. Quote. What's the use of this? Yuan threw the horns of the phantom bull over. Is this the horn of the phantom bull? The waiter turned it over and over, holding it under the light and squinting at it with one eye. Yes. The waiter raised his head slightly, with a look of surprise in his eyes. He looked at Yuan carefully from head to toe, looking a little incredulous. Are you really new to the camp? You are really amazing. It has many uses. Its ability to withstand high heat energy can be used by most weapons. It is much better than artificial high heat resistant crystals. So I recommend you choose our best-selling wave lightsaber. Before the waiter could finish, Astra told Yuan to choose shadow twin blades, saying that it had miraculous effects. I want AD level shadow twin blade. What materials does it require? The waiter was stunned at first, then shook his head and checked the list. Dark shadow twin blades, that's fine. It requires the charged feathers of an E-level shining eagle, the fiber optic horns of AC level phantom bull, the fur of AC level shadow beast, plus 10 kilograms of anti-source metal and 2 manufacturing costs. The waiter raised his head and looked at Yuanzi. If you can't provide other materials here, the total price of the other materials is 10 source crystals. Okay, use this. Yuan took out the half-used source crystal again. Sorry, this source crystal is determined to be 7.5 kilograms C grade. You still need 2.5. The waiter originally thought that Yuan must be a kid from some noble family since he could produce the phantom bull horn. But now seeing his embarrassed look of having no money, it seemed that he didn't know how he picked it up, so he swallowed the honorific title again. Just as Yuanzi was about to refute, a message from Astra came into his mind. Yes, the mutated half was used by you, its level dropped to C level, and its quality was halved. So only 150 is left out of the 7.5 million. Ha, aren't you good at math? This is such a luxury. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I really want to slap you. It's a pity that I can't draw it. So what should I do now? Go to the training camp and see if there are any missions, idiot. Quote. Yuan was speechless for a while. The waiter saw Yuan standing there in a daze and thought for a while. After all, Yuan was a student in the elite training camp, so he couldn't be too negligent, so he checked it on the computer and then interrupted Yuan in a lazy and slightly perfunctory tone. The training camp just released a mission about Shadow Beast today. You can take it from me first. That's fine. The Shadow Beast quest can almost make up for the difference. Yuan took another look at the price of Shadow Beast fur. The waiter glanced at Yuanzi with a bit of contempt, not thinking that he could complete it at all. Even if he solved the Phantom Bull, which was also a C-rank task, they still had no hope of completing this task because the ability of the hidden beast was a bug. Yuan's felt something was strange and looked him up and down. Okay. The waiter felt a little nervous when being stared at, so he simply took Yuan's ID card and clicked to confirm. Just as Yuanzi was waiting for the task information to be transmitted, a familiar figure came over. It was Li Weiming from the Li family, a guy he was born to be unfriendly with. The waiter walked over quickly, with a flattering smile on his face, and said respectfully, "Mr. Li, thank you for your visit. If you need anything, I will do my best to serve you. I'm just here to take a look today, you go and get busy." The waiter nodded and slowly backed away, returning to his seat. Li Weiming also saw Yuan's. The look he gave Yuan's was very calm, without that aggressive aura. Unlike his high school days, Li Weiming has never provoked Yuan's since entering the training camp. He seems like a different person, becoming calm and composed. He also treats the waiters politely and doesn't act like a bad boy. All this almost made Yuan's have an illusion. He seemed to no longer be a vengeful person, and he also seemed to have forgotten that he had stepped on him. Yuan's carefully observed the stranger in front of him and frowned slightly. Yuan's looked at Li Weiming. He quietly walked to his side and behind him. Xinliu could not detect any malicious intentions from him. "I've figured it out. You should be the chosen one. I, Li Weiming, will never catch up with you in my lifetime. Rather than being enemies with someone like you for life, it's better to be friends with you." Li Weiming's voice sounded from behind. Yuan's glanced sideways and saw that he had turned around, so he turned around too. Yuan saw him stretch out his hand, as if he wanted to shake hands and make peace with him, but he didn't want to forgive him just like that. "I know that I was wrong about your father's matter, and I should have apologized to you earlier." Li Weiming folded his hands in front of him and bowed to Yuan's in a standard manner, his attitude seeming very sincere. The people around couldn't believe their eyes when they saw this scene. They started to whisper. The young master of the Li family actually bowed to an unknown boy. And the movements were so standard. Who is this boy? There was more fear in everyone's eyes when they looked at Yuan's. The people from these big families were not easy to mess with, so Yuan's must be even harder to mess with. The waiter who had just received Yuanzi also noticed Li Weiming's behavior and couldn't stop shaking. In his mind, he was not only regretful, but also the rumored scene of the children of aristocratic families retaliating against those who neglected them. Although the identity of children of aristocratic families is useless in the training camp, that is only on the surface. In secret, who knows how many people will open the door to these elite children. Yuan's couldn't understand what Li Weiming was up to. There was confusion and puzzlement in his eyes when he looked at Li Weiming, as well as a hint of indescribable vigilance. They were intertwined and difficult to grasp. Li Weiming, this name has long been engraved in Yuan's heart. He is a proud child of aristocratic family, who once bullied Yuan's father and made his father struggle in humiliation. In the days that followed, Li Weiming became even more aggressive and constantly challenged Yuan's bottom line. But Yuan's was no pushover, he repeatedly made Li Weiming lose face in front of everyone. However, today, Li Weiming seemed like a different person. He stood in the middle of the crowd, in full view of everyone, and actually bowed to Yuan's to apologize. He bent very low, and his attitude was surprisingly sincere, as if all the previous grievances were just passing clouds. He stared at Li Weiming closely, trying to read some clues from his eyes. But Li Weiming's eyes were surprisingly calm, without a trace of ripples. He had a faint smile on his face, as if to say, "I've already apologized, what else do you want?" Yuan's asked Li Weiming to stand up straight, and said calmly, "Li Weiming, what do you mean? Do you think I can forgive you like this?" Li Weiming smiled slightly and did not comment. He straightened up, patted Yuan's shoulder gently, and left without looking back, leaving only his voice. "Brother Yuan, I know there have been many misunderstandings and conflicts between us. But today, I come to you with all my heart to apologize." Li Weiming deliberately interrupted the conversation and shouted in a serious tone. "But as to whether to forgive or not, I can't decide for you." Yuan's eyes narrowed into slits. What a plan to occupy the moral high ground, what a vicious way of flattery. "I am waiting for you." "Me too." Li Weiming waved his hands and accepted Yuan's challenge. The crowd looked at Li Weiming's back as he walked towards the depths of the manufacturing bureau, and then looked at Yuan's. He actually did not accept Li Xiao's apology, and everyone looked at Yuan's with a hint of suspicion. Snapped. The waiter suddenly fell to the ground, still shaking all over. Yuan's bent down and tried to pull him up, but he was so scared that he covered his face and backed away repeatedly, repeating words incoherently. "I can stand up on my own." Seeing this, Yuan's didn't want to help either. The mission information had already been transmitted, so he left this place of trouble. Chapter 35 2 years later. Weapons Manufacturing Bureau, Elite Training Camp Branch. In a dark and spacious house. "What? You want me to endure for 2 years?" Li Weiming slammed the table and yelled at the man in front of him. "Pay attention to your identity." The man in front of Li Weiming was not at all flustered. If it weren't for your father's suggestion, how would you be qualified to tell me this? The man stood up slowly. He was not very tall, but he had a very strong aura, which forced Li Weiming to lower his head little by little. The man left his seat, poured himself a small cup of dark golden liquid, and put it to his lips, but he didn't rush to drink it, since our alma maters are both members of JA District No. 1 Middle School. I won't mind your attitude. If my master hadn't had similar ideas to yours, you wouldn't have had such a good opportunity. After saying that, the man took a sip of the dark golden liquid and looked at Li Weiming, who was gritting his teeth. But you still tell me what you want. Li Weiming slowly slid down to the chair, looking somewhat exhausted. You should speak first, I will see what you have planned. The man held onto the chair, and a smile finally appeared on his half-gloomy face, illuminated by the dim light, making him even more creepy. Very good, it seems that you have made your position clear. It's simple. For a first-year reserve cadet, unless he ranks in the bottom 10% for 3 consecutive months, he will be expelled from the training camp. But then he will have no value. Otherwise, according to the protection mechanism of the first year of the training camp, except for a little chance during the year-end assessment, we have almost no chance to take action at other times. In the second year, the protection mechanism is basically concentrated in the sphere of influence of the training camp. If we can find a way to get him out of the training camp, we can find some opportunities. I think he should be a smart guy. Even if he leaves the training camp, we may not find opportunities. So the second year's end-of-year assessment is the key point. What do you mean? I didn't spend those years in the training camp for nothing, not to mention I managed to get to this position. The man shook the dark golden liquid in the cup, stirring up a rapidly spinning vortex. Do you know why there are only over 1,000 regular students in the 5-year training camp for so many years? Because the second year's end-of-year assessment is the most difficult in the past 5 years, at least 65% of the students will be eliminated. Because one of their assessment requirements is to kill a specified extraordinary level source beast within the last 3 months. For the students at that time, most of them were still at the integration level, and only a very small number of people could reach the peak level. The purpose of this assessment was to screen out those with poor talents and to be able to fight above their level. When the time comes, we just need to increase the difficulty of his test so that a genius like Yuanzi will also have a hard time. Even if he can kill, he will be exhausted both physically and mentally. What if he grows beyond our imagination? Do we have a backup plan? The man's smile suddenly became more wanton. Where do you think you are? There is no high-level weapon here that can't easily destroy a student. Not to mention the students, even the top-level masters will suffer a setback here. The man partially stopped smiling, but looked even more terrifying. But their authority is too high, and it is difficult for me to use them. But we still have a trick that can make the training camp expel him directly, but there are trade-offs. Make a choice. Li Weiming didn't dare to look him in the eye and felt a very eerie atmosphere. It's sacrifice. It can't be me, right? Humph, trash. Of course it's not you. The man leaned close to Li Weiming's ear. His voice was low and mysterious, as if it was a whisper from another world, and he slowly told Li Weiming a plan. Li Weiming's pupils began to shrink unconsciously at the terrifying whisper. His eyes, originally calm as a lake, now seemed to be thrown into a huge rock, with waves rising and falling. The edges of his black pupils began to tremble slightly, as if they were strongly stimulated by something. As Xiao Li's words went deeper, Li Weiming's pupils gradually shrank, the black dots almost disappeared in the whites of his eyes, and then suddenly expanded as if wanting to swallow all the light. This is a reflection of Li Weiming's inner fear. As for this, there's no turning back for you. Just like your father back then, you can only keep going forward. The man held up his wine glass, crossed his arms, and waited for his answer with interest. If the answer did not satisfy him, Li Weiming's father would not be able to protect him. Li Weiming's face began to turn pale, and beads of sweat oozed from his forehead. He tried to stay calm, but his body's instinctive reaction could not hide his inner panic. He remembered the warning in the video his father gave him before coming to the training camp. Father, the person you said could help me is probably one of the students sponsored by the Li family, and he is actually the second in command of the training camp branch of the manufacturing bureau. Be more modest. He is not a good man. I am not asking you to be afraid of him, but the person behind him. I have to be wary of him. Just like I told you not to have any conflicts with Yuans for the time being, the same goes for him. Stop being a pushy idiot. I understand, father. No matter if Yuanzi is Li Haisheng's disciple or not, since he has brought out your inner demon, you must kill him yourself, otherwise you will never be able to break through to the extraordinary level in this lifetime. I don't want to have such a waste. You are only my eldest son, not the only heir. Understand, father. The broad figure in the video never turned around, and the cold tone was like the chilly wind in winter, mercilessly piercing Li Weiming's heart. His father's conversation was full of orders and obedience, without any warmth of family affection. This made Li Weiming feel inexplicably depressed and uneasy, as if he was just a chess piece in his father's hand and could be discarded at any time. He knew that his father had always been a strong man who had an absolute desire to control everything in the family. As his eldest son, Li Weiming had received strict training and instruction since he was a child, and had been instilled with various family honors and responsibilities. So, he became diligent, but his father always turned a blind eye to his excellent performance and criticized him every time. This cold and utilitarian relationship made him feel tired and bored, and he longed to break free from this bondage and pursue his own freedom and dreams. As a result, he became cynical and cared a lot about the cheers and envy of others. He wanted to be the center of attention in the eyes of others. It seemed that only in this way could he escape the ruthless control of his father. He raised his head with difficulty and looked at the man who was carefully observing the flow of liquid in the wine glass. It seemed that this horrific plan was not as important as the wine glass in his hand. "I promise you, but in return, you have to agree to one of my requests." Li Weiming became very calm and his tone was very firm. The man looked at him in surprise, not knowing what he had been thinking. Unlike that loser just now, he was actually able to look him straight in the face and even dared to make a request. "Tell me what you want. If the organization can do it, we will definitely help you achieve it. I want to become the head of the Li family." The man laughed wildly in his heart. It was indeed karma. Li Hyaming, how you treated your father is how your son will treat you now." This scene is becoming more and more exciting. He showed no emotion on the surface, and no longer had that gloomy aura. He poured another glass and handed it to Li Weiming who was standing beside him. Li Weiming watched the liquid swirling in the cup, as if it contained some unspeakable secret. Both of them showed a very standard smile. Happy cooperation. Happy cooperation. The two toasted. Li Weiming drank it all without hesitation. The dark golden liquid slid into his throat, bringing a strange feeling. But he didn't seem to be aware of the conspiracy behind it, and was just immersed in the joy of the upcoming cooperation. However, the man knew clearly what this dark golden liquid represented. This so-called cooperation was nothing more than a trap carefully planned by the master, waiting for Li Weiming to step into it step by step. He raised his glass again and gestured to Li Weiming. At this moment, his smile was even brighter, but a hint of coldness flashed in his eyes. He knew that this conspiracy was halfway successful, and all that was left was to wait for the right moment to make Li Weiming completely fall into it. But what he didn't know was that when Li Weiming turned and left, he also revealed his signature sinister expression, his heart full of resentment, and he also had some plans. In a corner unknown to the man, a pool of dark golden liquid was flushed into the sewer. Chapter 36 Collective Task. Yuan's left the training camp on the second plane that day with other trainees who were assigned to the mission and headed for the B-03 mechanical city that was the latest to be attacked. It's not that he ignored the potential threat posed by the old man in white robe, but that all new students who had just entered the camp would receive a precious one-year novice protection period. Li Haisheng mentioned that during this period, he was able to perform tasks relatively freely. If anything unexpected happened, all data would be transmitted to the China Data Center, and the management right was not in the hands of the martial arts hall, so the old man in white robe would not take action. Yuan's clicks on the task details. Quote, Sea-level mission, collective mission, repair nuclear fusion facilities. 03. Mission address, the underground nuclear power plant in the Machinery City. 2. Mission background. B-03 Machinery City, a newly commissioned machinery city, is an important energy supply center in China. Its underground nuclear power plant bears the heavy responsibility of providing clean and efficient energy to surrounding cities. However, recently after its completion, a rare shadow beast sneaked into the nuclear power plant and used its stealth and destructive abilities to cause limited damage to the core facilities. The nuclear power plant's power transmission performance has dropped by 10%. If it is not repaired in time, it may affect the normal operation of surrounding cities. 3. Current status of the mission area. 1. Core area. The safety system has been activated and the core reactor is in a protected state, but the magnetic confinement system and tokamak device were slightly damaged and require professional repairs. 2. Peripheral area. Some facilities have been destroyed, and shadow beasts may still be active in the area. Security forces have established a temporary defense line, but there are still security risks. 3. Material warehouse. The superconducting materials used for repairs are stored in a warehouse, but due to the destruction of Shadow Beast, the entrance to the warehouse is blocked. It is not ruled out that Shadow Beast is still active here. IV. Mission objectives. Objective 1. Repair the magnetic confinement system. Objective 2. Stabilize the tokamak. Objective 3. Restart the inertial confinement unit. Objective 4. Kill the third-level body tempering Shadow Beast. Objective 5. Find superconducting materials for repair. Completion of one of the above and assistance in the final restoration of the B-03 nuclear fusion facility will be considered completion of this mission. Rewards: 1,000 contribution points for each item. 1,000 points will be awarded for assisting in the restoration of facilities. Additional rewards may be obtained if you perform well in the mission or propose innovative solutions. Quote: After reading the mission details, Yuanzi smiled bitterly. Astra, how come this is a nuclear power plant mission? I don't even know the first three. I can't teach you in a short time, but the last two are troublesome. The electromagnetic radiation leaked from these facilities has no effect on you in the battle suit, but it will affect the equipment that tracks the Shadow Beast. Then I'll finish the last two first. HMPH, maybe you don't know the characteristics of Shadow Beast's abilities yet. Astra snorted. Isn't it just invisibility? It's nothing more than some optical principles. Electromagnetic interference can't completely destroy thermal imaging. You are really confident. Have you forgotten what Professor Sun said? You should take a good look at the information first. Quote: Source Beast Files, Shadow Escape Beast. Ability 1, Optical Camouflage and Visibility. The surface of the Shadow Beast is covered with a layer of special biological nanostructures, which can dynamically regulate the reflection and refraction of light to achieve an efficient optical camouflage effect. When ambient light shines on the Shadow Beast's skin, these nanostructures will scatter the light in a highly ordered manner, making the Shadow Beast visually transparent or integrated with the environment. This process is similar to the structural color phenomenon in nature. Ability 2, Heat Shadow. Shadow Beasts possess a unique biological heat regulation mechanism called thermal shadow, the core of which lies in the special cell structure in the body and the network of tiny blood vessels under the skin. These special cells can efficiently absorb and transform the heat generated in the body, avoiding the formation of heat signals that can be captured by thermal imaging equipment. At the same time, they can also release pseudo-heat signals close to the ambient temperature, thereby achieving integration with the surrounding environment under thermal imaging. Quote: Damn, doesn't that mean we can only use high-frequency electromagnetic waves for detection? Yuanzi was slightly stunned after reading the information. It's terrible to be uneducated. Astra made a sarcastic sound as if he was pinching his nose and shouting. How did my master design something as annoying as you? Forget it. I am a magnanimous person and will not argue with you. Let me see the map first. B-03 Machinery City is the closest machinery city to the elite training camp. Its underground nuclear power plant is responsible for the energy supply of all machinery cities in City B and some machinery cities in surrounding provinces. It is therefore one of the newest and most tightly guarded machinery cities in China. Therefore, since its construction began, it has been the mechanical city most frequently harassed by source beasts. The underground nuclear power plant is divided into 10 floors. The inner 5 floors are the core area with a very strict security system, and the outer 5 floors are the peripheral area. Warehouses are distributed from the 1st floor to the 9th floor. Just as Yuan's was thinking about his strategy, a voice interrupted him. Hello, do you remember me? Yuan's looked up at the place where the voice came from, and a tall and strong student with a very square face greeted him. Remember, it was you who fought with the anaconda last time. Hush, he's here too, at the back. The student walked towards him and sat down on the empty seat next to him. Hello, my name is Kong Jung-si. I am Yuan of Source, Z of Bai Z. I saw it last time. Your SH team is really strong. If it weren't for that shameless anaconda, you would all be first. Kong Jung-si said as he stretched his neck and looked back in the direction of the anaconda. Nothing. I'm actually quite curious as to why you two started fighting. Yuan's continued to look at the electronic map in his hand without raising his head. Oh, I also felt it was inexplicable, just like being hit by a taunt skill in a game. I instantly became furious and lost control of my body. I just wanted to beat him up. Oh, I see. Then you were too uncalm. Yuan smiled and remembered the new skill he acquired in the spiritual space more than 10 days ago. That should be the taunt skill. Then I'll go back. You should also be careful of that guy called Sen Anaconda. There are also a few formal students who are one level higher than us. They are not easy to mess with. Kong Jung-si secretly pointed at a few students who were resting their eyes and other reserve students. They really can't do anything to us freshmen, but they have recently recruited a group of new brothers. These little devils will come to cause trouble for us. It's best to pay some protection fees or something. What are you afraid of? If you are afraid, you can just follow me and be my little brother. How about that? Yuan's turned off the electronic map, made a joke with Kong Jung-si, took out a paper book, opened it, covered his face with it, and lay down with his eyes closed to rest. No, not really. Kong Zijin stepped back slightly embarrassed, and after seeing Yuan's rest, he made eye contact with the bullies he mentioned one by one. Opening parenthesis. Chapter 37 Preliminary Exploration. After a while, the plane that Yuan's was on landed at the airport near the underground entrance of the nuclear power plant. After a series of tedious security checks and identity confirmation procedures, all the trainees dispersed to various areas of the nuclear power plant to conduct searches. He took a deep breath and stepped into the elevator of the nuclear power plant. He looked through the elevator glass and saw that all the electronic equipment here was automatically controlled. Various instruments emitted soft light, indicating the operating status of each system in the nuclear power plant. Security robots and cameras on each floor are constantly patrolling and monitoring to ensure the safety of every corner. The communication here is really bad. Not long after Yuanzi entered an area of the nuclear power plant, the communication with other teammates in the bracelet was blocked, and they were unable to know each other's location. Yuanzi could only move forward step by step while looking at the map instructions and high-frequency electromagnetic wave detection on the mask of his battle suit. There's nothing we can do about it. The radiation here is mainly neutron radiation, which is stronger than nuclear fission. Not to mention the accident. Why do you want to issue the mission in the training camp? The airport just now was almost full of military aircraft. Shouldn't there be troops stationed here? Bring your electromagnetic cannon over here. Those weapons are too destructive. If they get penetrated somewhere, the accident will far exceed the most severe nuclear accident in history, the Norchebelly nuclear accident. They are just two small source beasts with limited destructive power. This is just the opportunity for you to complete the mission and learn a good lesson. How many? That's not the case. My biological sense tells me. Astra suddenly realized, don't try to trick me. You don't even tell me this. Are you sure you're not an artificial idiot? Yuanzi rolled his eyes, raised his alert, and continued to move forward. Humph. Yuanzi came to the area he was responsible for, and from the outside, there were obvious signs of destruction. This was a small power transmission and transformation studio, connected to external cables. But at this time, all the cables were cut, and the broken wires inside were hanging on the ground like black tentacles. The walls of the studio were also left with traces of being scratched by the source beast, and the deep claw marks were shocking. Yuanzi walked into the studio and found that the equipment inside was also destroyed. The fusion battery, which was supposed to be running quietly, now looked like a toy that had been disassembled, with its internal parts scattered on the ground, emitting a cold metallic luster. On the console, the display screen had been broken, emitting a faint blue light, as if telling what happened before it was destroyed. Yuanzi carefully avoided the debris on the ground, his eyes scanning around, trying to find any possible clues. He noticed that some robot wreckage was scattered on the ground, their metal shells were covered with scratches and dents, obviously completely destroyed in the battle with the source beast. He walked over to a console and tried to reboot the system, but only gibberish appeared on the screen. Judging from the extent of the destruction here, the source beast's power is not great. Yuanzi frowned. He looked around, but there was nothing around except the destroyed equipment. There was not even a way to move forward. He turned on the scanning function on his wristband and began to conduct a detailed inspection of the surroundings. He did not miss any corner of the studio, every floor, and every wall. Trace analysis activated. Analysis results. Judging from the material and traces of the damaged metal, 2 shadow escape beasts once destroyed this place. One is a level 4 body tempering beast, and the other is a level 3 body tempering beast. An illusion wall is detected ahead. Should we move forward? Eliminate. As soon as he finished speaking, a large damaged hole appeared in the door in front, and then a piece of hair connected to 2 wires fell into Yuanzi's hands. Be careful, there's something wrong. How come Shadow Beast has learned to use its own hair to make it invisible? Astra frowned and reminded Yuanzi to be careful. Yuanzi was also very surprised. A large piece of metal plate was lying helplessly in a corner in front of him. The 2 shadow beasts actually blasted such a big gap in the door of the next level. Be careful, Astra suddenly reminded again. Yuanzi had just crawled out of the gap at this time, and before his flow could react, Astra detected a slight abnormality coming from the air fluctuations. Yuanzi dodged immediately, and only heard a loud noise on the ground in front of him, followed by a dent in the ground that left the mark of a beast's claw. Gene chip overclocking, combat mode. Thermal imaging and high-frequency electromagnetic imaging have been turned on. As soon as Yuanzi thought about it, the red and black battlesuit immediately switched from reconnaissance mode to combat mode. All the equipment used for reconnaissance were nanoscaled and integrated into the battlesuit, and then the battlesuit tightly wrapped Yuanzi's body. It was the first time that Yuanzi encountered this kind of invisible enemy. This time, he used all his energy to overclock his body's perception ability, directly raising his body's perception to the limit. The only sound that could be heard was the crackling sound of disconnected wires. Yuanzi did not dare to act rashly and took a defensive stance. In fact, Jen's gang analyzed the defects of this source beast through the ability characteristics given by Astra. Its shortcoming is that it cannot be used for strenuous exercise. The heat generated by exercise will increase the heat of the capillary network, thereby destroying its thermal imaging ability, and the skin stealth ability will also decrease. This is where thermal imaging comes into play. So I can't keep wasting time with it like this. Yuan's began to move quickly. His movements were swift, and every step he took was an attempt to lure the invisible shadow beast into attacking. He knew that every attack would consume the shadow beast's energy and would also cause a brief fluctuation in its heat stealth effect. His tactics worked, and after dodging several times, he finally captured the shadow beast's faint heat signal on the thermal imager. It was a blurry shadow that appeared and disappeared from time to time, as if playing hide and seek with him. Yuan's was delighted and immediately adjusted his direction, rushing towards the direction of the heat signal. However, just as he was about to make contact with the shadow beast, the heat signature suddenly disappeared. He was stunned for a moment, then realized that he had been tricked. The shadow beast used the characteristics of the heat hiding ability to first weaken the heat dissipation ability to lure him in, and then strengthened the heat dissipation to continue hiding. An attack from 27 degrees to the north. Astra captured this invisible attack using airflow. Yuan's leaned sideways and tilted his head, and a gust of wind brushed past his ears, leaving him unharmed. But after several attacks, the hermit beast still hit Yuan's. Surprisingly, this was a blind spot of the battle suit and blood oozed out. The hidden beast kept hitting and stopping, and the rhythm kept changing, which put Yuan's into a passive situation again and made it a little difficult to cope with. After several consecutive attacks, Yuanzi seemed a little overwhelmed. After all, the force of even the weakest attack of this third-level body-tempered source beast was still quite strong for Yuanzi. His torso, which did not have an overclocked physical fitness, could not withstand a few hits even under the protection of the battle suit. Yuan's was exhausted and muttered a few words to the front. Then he fell to the ground with a thud and closed his eyes. Chapter 38 The Meaning of Genius. You're such a fucking genius. Astra screamed in Yuan's mind again. You can think of this. Can't you think of it? How could I not think of it? This is all because Dr. Li restricted me. If there were no restrictions, I would have told you long ago. Yuan's grabbed the dead shadow beast's ear and looked at it carefully. The little thing is quite unique, and its appearance is just like a cute little rabbit, no wonder it is so fast. However, compared with the phantom bull of the same level, its strength is much inferior. Despite this, the shadow beast is more difficult to deal with than the phantom bull. You always use this trick, and I never get tired of it. As long as it works, it's fine. We need to retain our strength to continue advancing. I promise you, I'll try a different tactic next time. Dissect this rabbit and see how I can sense bioelectricity even when it's dead. Astra added. Yuan's took out a knife, removed the fur and a source crystal, and found a microchip in the brain. What kind of chip is this? It's smaller than my fingernail. HMPH, I told you, it's just a small chip, put it on the suit and let me feel it. It's a chip that stores the usage of Shadow Beast's fur. One of the uses is the phantom wall that it just created to confuse people. Damn it, why is there someone behind this again? There are already enough things going on. Yuanzi frowned slightly, swung his fist wrapped in his battle suit, and smashed the source beast's skull and the chip inside, cleverly disguising it as traces of damage in battle. At the same time, the truth revealed by Li Haisheng and the secret hidden behind the old man in white robe emerged in his mind again. He wondered if there was some subtle connection between the two, and he was also confused by the number of errors that occurred in the mission. Was it simple negligence, or was there something else going on? Don't think about it, little genius. My analysis must be correct. There must be two source beasts causing trouble. Someone must be hiding some information. There is no point in thinking about it. It is better to keep moving forward. Afterwards, Yuan's passed through two more phantom walls and came to the warehouse on the 4th floor, which was a warehouse that was mostly destroyed. However, the second source beast never appeared. You mean this layer of superconducting material? Is there any? I can't see through things, why are you asking me? You are not as good as me in this respect. Tisk, how can you? Yuan's took out the X-ray glasses that Li Haisheng gave him last time and put them on to check what was going on inside. What's going on? Why don't you tell me? Don't forget to help me analyze the image. I don't recognize it. HMPH, you still have to rely on me, come and beg me. Astra put on that face again. That's fine, I've achieved my goal this time anyway. No, let me help you. Astra performed a mind transmission analysis of the image that Yuan saw. Yes, there is a big intact box in the lower right corner. The password box has been broken for a long time. Just open the door and go in to take it. Astra was projected using 3D imaging technology, and even its exact location was marked. Why do I feel that you are becoming smarter and more like a human being? Yuan's used the battle suit that turned into a lever to pry the broken and dented door. No, I am a self-evolving AI designed by Dr. Li. I will gradually gain independent consciousness. This alone is something that those lousy creatures on the market cannot compare to. That's still saying how powerful my master is. Okay, I'm going in. Yuan's knocked a hole in the door and took out the box of superconducting materials. The route to the core area has been planned for you. Aren't you quite considerate? HMPH, this was all designed by your genius master. Astra seemed to be having a bad temper and cut off the connection with Yuan's for the first time. However, it was no big deal since the route was still projected on the mask. After another round of more stringent security checks and identity verifications, Yuan's took the elevator to the core area carrying a box of superconducting materials. As soon as the elevator door opened, Yuanzi seemed to be standing at the entrance of another universe. His sight was captured by the huge suspended sphere in the distance. This technology completely exceeded his imagination. Suspended in the air was an artificial star, a miracle condensed by human wisdom and technology. It was huge and so bright that it was impossible to look directly at it. Even through the thick transparent crystal plate, the blazing heat surged like a tide, almost melting people. Inside the sphere, nuclear fusion reactions were ongoing. The energy was like a raging fire dragon, churning inside and outside the sphere, but was firmly bound by the precise structure and eventually transformed into a continuous flow of light and heat. In the face of such technology, anyone will feel insignificant and powerless. Yuan stopped for a moment, then continued walking forward, and unexpectedly spotted Rick. He saw Rick staring at the screen, his fingers rapidly tapping on the keyboard, completely immersed in the world of electronic numbers. "Hi," Yuan's greeted Rick. Rick stared at him for a long time but couldn't tell who it was. "Who are you? Can't you see I'm busy and don't have time to chat?" Yuan's handed the box of superconducting materials to the robot and changed the mask to transparent. "Now you recognize it. Oh, why didn't you tell me earlier? Your battle suit is so cool, where did you buy it?" Rick looked at Yuan's with extremely envious eyes. "Tell me first, why are you here? Let's go talk in the lounge." Then Rick thought of something, turned around and shouted to the other person, "Chris, the superconducting materials have arrived. I'm going to take a rest first." Chris gave an okay sign and continued working. The two came to the lounge. Rick poured himself 2 glasses of ice water and pushed the glasses in front of Yuan's. "This is yours. I still prefer to drink hot tea. The Chinese habits are quite different from you Westerners." However, Yuan still took the cup, and the two of them started to drink it. "No, you just asked me why I'm here. The nuclear fusion facility of B03 was just developed by my company. I've learned these things a long time ago, and today I just happened to take on a mission to put them into practice." "Hey, Shuang, then what are you doing here?" Rick asked while pouring the water. "I also accepted this task. What do you think this is?" Yuan's took the fur of the shadow beast out of his pocket and waved it in front of Rick. "The fur of the shadow beast is a good material for stealth weapons. You have accomplished 2 goals. It's not surprising to think about it. You were able to kill the phantom bull more than half a month ago, so it's even easier to kill the shadow beast of the same level. You are worthy of being like this." "Not really. This thing is still quite dangerous." Yuan's took another sip of water and slowly told the story of the battle. It turned out that Yuan's deliberately gave this rabbit a flaw. The invisibility ability plus the almost complete disregard for thermal imaging was a bug. Yuan's had no means of range attack, so it was difficult to threaten it directly. So when the rabbit attacked non-vital parts, Yuan's retracted his battle suit for protection, so that Yuan's blood splashed directly on the rabbit. It didn't splash on the rabbit the first time, but after the next few times, he finally adjusted the angle and splashed on the rabbit. This time, the thermal imaging could see it clearly. Then, the moment Yuanzi fell, he used the temptation and taunt he had obtained at the same time, allowing the shadow beast to completely let down its guard. He still did the same as usual, pretending to be defeated and killing the enemy with 1 blow when he was about to make a finishing blow. That is to say, you are good at walking on the edge of a knife. The same goes for Phantom Bull and Shadow Beast. You are really brave and skilled. Rick stretched, stood up, and put on his work clothes again. You are the same. You dared to repair the magnetic confinement system. You are a genius. I can't do it. You can't do anything. Not only do you brag about your business, but you also have to brag about yourself. Rick put on his work clothes and said, "I have to go back too. You can rest for a while." Suddenly, the lounge shook, and Yuan's noticed that Rick's eyes were filled with fear and panic. He rushed out without saying a word. Yuan's also entered combat mode and followed Rick to the central control room, where all the robots collapsed to the ground. Damn it! Someone actually implanted a virus into the system. When did it happen? Rick's fingers flew quickly on the holographic keyboard. Chris and other staff members beside him were so nervous that they didn't stop and didn't even notice the existence of the two. This virus shouldn't have been implanted for long. Rick's voice was filled with anxiety. We have to find a solution quickly, otherwise the entire system will collapse. Chris pounded the table in frustration and yelled through gritted teeth. There's no other way. The firewall has been cracked, and the security system is collapsing. We can't keep up with the speed. We have to use brain-computer interface programming. What nonsense. Facing such a sudden virus, brain-computer interface programming is too risky. A staff member next to Chris retorted. No, this technology is not perfect yet. You are the leader of the brain-computer interface programming development team. You should know it better than us. Rick retorted, following up on what the previous person said. No, I have to try. Otherwise, the whole city will be buried with it and we will all die here. Chris took a deep breath, as if he had made a firm decision. Yuans watched the two of them lower their heads and talk about something, and Chris seemed to have given Rick something. Rick used a hand that was not holding anything to pull Chris, but as a source warrior, he couldn't even catch an ordinary person like Juju. Chris then jumped onto the damping stabilization chair and put on the helmet for brain-computer interface programming. Just 1 minute after the connection, the system gradually stabilized and everyone cheered. Yeah, Yuans, look, the system is gradually recovering. Rick hugged Yuans, very excited. The invasion rate on the screen dropped from 99% to 80% very quickly. The system was turning around bit by bit. This was all thanks to Chris's genius. This was completely his stage. Chapter 39 The Meaning of Genius Part. 2 days later, it was raining heavily. Yuans looked at the inscription and photo on the tombstone with mixed emotions. He had only met this middle-aged man a few times, but he had left such an indelible impression on him. His wife once sacrificed her life to protect their daughter from the beast tide, and now he has followed her. Rick, wearing a black suit and holding a black umbrella, slowly approached Yuans. Alas, a hemp rope always breaks at the thinnest part, and misfortune always finds the unfortunate. This is how ordinary people in this era are. Chris is considered lucky. Yuan sighed and continued the conversation. But who would want this? Both of her parents sacrificed themselves to protect her. How much pressure must Diane have to bear? However, her father is considered a hero, so her future won't be too bad. Who wants that? What was the last thing Chris said to you? Rick sighed heavily and told the last few words with Chris. You don't have to sacrifice yourself, just let others do it. You are very important to this nuclear power plant and brain-computer interface programming. As you said, I am the leader of this group. No one knows it better than me. You don't have to persuade me. I have made up my mind. At worst, we can take the emergency escape spacecraft provided by our family and take your entire research team with us. Impossible. B03 still has tens of millions of residents. I saw Chris smile bitterly, then he took out a photo from his arms and stroked it with his hands. This is my wife. She sacrificed herself in the source beast tide to protect our daughter. Now I am going to follow her. If I need help, please take good care of my girl. Chris took out another photo and handed it to Rick. Her name is Diane Paul. She lives in room 03 of the second family building in B305. Tell her that Daddy will always love her. This is not only for you, but also for my loved ones, and everyone in B03. Yuans looked at Rick sighing continuously, and his thoughts went back to that time. Less than a minute after the brain-computer interface was connected, the security system gradually stabilized, and everyone cheered as it recovered bit by bit. Yeah, Yuans, look, the system is gradually recovering. Rick hugged Yuans and was very excited. The picture on the screen went from 99% to the stubborn twists and turns now. This was completely the work of the genius Chris. This was completely his stage. But when the invasion rate dropped to 20%, Chris, who was sitting in the damping stability chair, suddenly trembled violently. The electrocardiogram on the instrument next to him gradually became disordered, and then he kept coughing up blood. No one dared to disturb him, and there were even tiny sobs from the crowd. Yuan saw that Chris was gritting his teeth. His face was completely distorted. He was trying to stabilize his body and hold on. He was now the hope of the entire B03. The red bar of the invasion rate began to be pulled repeatedly at this time, but was still continuously pushed down to 0%. The long sound pierced everyone's heart, and Chris's heart stopped beating. Hurry, send him to the emergency room, it's on the first floor, someone come and carry him. Rick anxiously directed everyone present, lifted Chris up, and ran towards the emergency room together. Rick no longer paid attention to Yuans, and even had no time to care about the final successful clearing on the screen. They just wanted to save Chris. Yuan stayed alone in the central control room. What happened? Astra suddenly restored contact with Yuans. Why are you so serious? Astra also received the disconnection message and fell silent. Do me a favor. Okay. Astra saw the invasion rate starting to slowly increase again and understood what Yuans meant. He wanted to carry on Chris's legacy and finish what Chris hadn't done in the end. Yuans put on the brain-computer interface helmet, and Astra's voice sounded in his mind. New function, programming mode activated, automatic mode activated, gene chip enables brain-computer interface. In a short while, Astra cleared all the viruses from the control system of the nuclear power plant. strengthened the original firewall, optimized the code of brain-computer interface programming technology, and finally found the source of the virus. When the others came back one after another, Yuan's had already taken off his helmet. Yuan's was not worthy of this honor. Everyone else was busy with the aftermath, without any sense of joy from success. Only Rick was looking at the computer, and then secretly glancing at Yuan's. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have been so willful. If I had been there just now, there would have been no problem. If he was also a source warrior, even if he was an apprentice level, he wouldn't have been injured so badly. But if it's this serious now, he should. Yuan's remembered that in the end, Astra kept apologizing to him, and he shouldn't have taken out all his anger on an AI. The cool feeling dripped onto his head, wetting his hair and awakening his thoughts back to reality. At this time, Rick was comforting Diane. Yuanzi recalled what his master had said. I originally wanted to use genetic programming technology to develop a C virus to simulate the evolutionary mechanism of the mutation source, so that humans can collectively unlock the genetic lock, so that ordinary people can also fight against the source beasts. If Chris could also become a source warrior, then Diane wouldn't have to lose his father, the research team wouldn't have lost their leader, and B03 wouldn't have lost their hero. Yuanzi couldn't understand why there were still people trying to stop the era of everyone becoming a UN warrior. Rick sent Diane to the car, returned to Yuan's who was squatting in front of the tombstone, stood there quietly, without saying a word, and held an umbrella for him. What do you want? Yuan's asked. I'm sorry, my family suppressed this matter, and Chris didn't even get the final honor. I only fought for Diane's living conditions. My parents adopted her and changed her name to Diane Sanchez. She will live with the Sanchez family from now on. I know that. You don't have to apologize. You did good enough. I should thank you. It's you who saved B03 and restored the reputation of our family. You know. How come I don't know? You forgot to delete the log modification record. You may say you are incompetent, but you have helped us improve brain-computer technology and firewalls, so you are not incompetent. I don't want others to know. Yuan's also stood up and spoke to him face to face. I have deleted the record. That's good. But someone must have known. Who is it? Yuan's asked back vigilantly. B03 City Lord. How would he know? Because he has a special gene lock ability. By the way, I saw your record in the log. You should know who transplanted the virus. Yuan's didn't say anything, but took out a micro-mobile storage device from his pocket and handed it to Rick. Rick looked at the chip carefully, his face suddenly changed, and the umbrella fell from his hand. This is Chris's memory. Is it him? Yes. The two men turned around and faced Chris's tombstone. The rain was still falling on them and the wind was still blowing their clothes. They stood there motionless. A complex emotion surged in their hearts. Sadness, reluctance, anger, helplessness, all kinds of feelings were tearing at them, trying to tear their hearts apart. How do you want to do it? Get to the bottom of it. In order to atone for his sins, Lonely Chris not only saved his last dignity and took all the secrets with him, but also bought his daughter's last chance of life. After the rain stopped and the sky cleared, the two had already left. Only the black umbrella was still propped up on the tombstone, protecting him from the wind and rain. The sun shone through the gaps on the tombstone, which was engraved with Protect the ones you love. Chapter 40. Who do you want to be your younger brother? I'm sorry, don't be angry, I've already helped you. Astra kept apologizing to Yuan's. Then why don't you delete the log records? Are you really that stupid? I just don't want to have no sense of existence. I also want to leave traces of my existence. You should be more careful. Although you are not a real human yet, your actions will still affect the real world. Understood. Forget it this time. Let's go to the B03 mechanical city and take a look. This new city is very interesting. Yuanzi was helpless with her and could only give her a warning. Rick said they still had a lot of follow-up repair work to do, and it would take another 3 or 4 days to complete the task. It was a good opportunity for Yuan's to adjust his mood a little. B03 Mechanical City is a mechanical city that was built not long ago. The facilities inside are all the most advanced high-tech, but it has a unique style. Yuan's gently pulled open the hotel's curtains, and a glittering and colorful urban landscape slowly unfolded before his eyes. In the center of the city, a building reaches into the sky, like a legendary Zyagi, mysterious and majestic. Under the light of night, the outline of the building gradually emerges. Its exterior wall seems to be carved by time, with the ancient brick and stone texture blending with the modern metal luster. Each brick and stone seems to tell a long history, while the metal decoration shines the light of the future. The building's limbs are all mechanical arms, bending and stretching, supporting the entire building. The exposed gears and pistons on the arms rotate inside, making low mechanical sounds, telling the fusion of future technology and ancient legends. On the top of the building, a pair of blazing eyes patrolled the night sky. These high-tech optical lenses monitored all threats from the air, rotating, scanning, and capturing every movement, just like a Zyajid patrolling its territory to ensure its safety. The taste of the mayor of B03 is really unique. Yuans drew the curtains and walked out of the room. That's not true. According to legend, Zyajid is the creator of law. It seems that this city lord attaches great importance to the rule of law and order. That's not necessarily true. There are many people who say one thing to your face and another behind your back. Yuans pursed his lips and smiled. It seems that Astra, as an artificial intelligence, still doesn't quite understand human nature. That's true. Yuans walked on the street, looking at the people passing by and the various interesting things on the street with great curiosity. On both sides of the street, there are rows of various ancient Chinese-style buildings, pavilions, towers, and flying eaves. Among the pedestrians, some were wearing hanfu with fluttering sleeves, but in their hands they were not playing with folding fans or jade pendants, but transparent smart holographic screens flashing with information and light. Some people wear tights with bright lines, and you can see grooves on their bodies like electronic circuits. These lines meander across their faces and exposed skin, complementing the neon lights of the city. The shops on both sides of the street also incorporate this combination of classic and future. A tea house, with an old wooden door inlaid with an electronic panel, actually emits a faint sandalwood fragrance. The copper ring on the door sways gently in the night breeze, making a ding-dong sound. Yuans also found a seat in the lobby and sat down, looking at everyone while drinking tea. Inside the tea house, robots were pouring and brewing tea, and people in different costumes were turning on the holographic projection from time to time to watch short videos and read novels. Some old-fashioned people were still holding paper media. After drinking his tea, Yuans was still a little impatient, so he went out to continue to stroll around this magical B03. This B03 is so interesting. That's right. When the city lord designed this city, he positioned it as a free city. People's work is mostly done by robots, so the work pressure is not great, and everyone has time to go out and play and spend money. Disabled source warriors will be provided with prosthetic limbs for free, so that they can maintain their daily lives and maintain their combat effectiveness against alien beasts. Astra kept pouring this information into Yuan's ears and couldn't stop. Yuan's was the same, looking at BO3's information while shopping. The charm of this city filled Yuan's and Astra so much that he was fascinated by it that he did not notice the figure following them quietly. Stop. Yuan looked back and stared at them, his eyes not panicking at all. Everything was within his expectations. He had deliberately walked into this remote dead end. The little ghosts that Kong Junxi pointed at the beginning surrounded him. Hand over the fur of the shadow beast, and we will not bother with you about this matter. I really don't know what happened to alarm you all. Yuanzi's tone was teasing as he slowly took out the fur, his behavior as if he didn't care about the threat in front of him. There was a provocation hidden in his eyes, telling the other party that he didn't take them seriously at all. You still dare to provoke me? Take action. Yuan stood with his hands behind his back, looking at the fist coming towards his face without dodging at all. Instead, this group of little devils seemed to be frightened by this action. Their fists curved and passed over Yuan's face, and they were even afraid of scratching him. Yuan's looked at the clumsy, little ghosts, with a smile on his face, watching them awkwardly perform this clumsy drama. At this moment, Kong Zaijin rushed over and knocked down several people. After seeing that it was the second young master of the Kong family, these people were so scared that they fled in embarrassment. The senior students also gradually came over. I told you to pay the protection fee. Kong Zaijin shook his head and advised Yuan's. Brothers, for the sake of Master Kong, please don't be so aggressive. Besides, this fur is not worth much. Stop pretending. You act so righteous all day long and your acting skills are really poor. Do you still want me to be your little brother? Yuan's ruthlessly exposed Kong Junxi. Kong Junxi's eyes rolled around a few times, with a hint of surprise and disbelief in his eyes, and he wanted to defend himself. There's nothing to say. If you want to take action, just do it. Yuan's flow told him last time that Kong Junxi's intentions were not pure, but he didn't expect that he was really so ungrateful. Then there's nothing we can do. You guys go ahead. I'll take care of it as long as you don't die. Be careful. He can kill a body-tempering level beast. Don't be careless. Afterwards, Kong Junxi sat on a stone bench in the alley and watched the fight with great interest. Facing the siege of two body-tempering level source warriors, even the most talented awakening level warrior would be nothing more than a more durable sandbag. Unexpectedly, Kong Junxi didn't expect Yuan's to have such a powerful battle suit, and he was able to fight back and forth in a short time. Kong Junxi carefully looked at the lines extending from his left hand to his whole body, and felt very familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. It seems that there is no way to accept Yuanzi as a little brother. He won't be persuaded by soft or hard tactics. There are people breaking the law in Liberty City too. You humans are really interesting. Astra still had time to analyze humans during the battle and joked with Yuan's. Concentrate. Just hone yourself and prepare to run away. That Kong Junk-si might also take action, and then the situation will be too disadvantageous. At worst, I can find an opportunity to beat Kong Junk-si up next time. Astra analyzed the battle situation and felt that it was too difficult to deal with the two body tempering level source warriors without endangering their lives and violating the training camp regulations. Just as she expected, over time, Yuan's gradually fell into a disadvantage. When Yuan's was about to run away, a black shadow suddenly joined the battlefield. He also possessed top-notch weapons, which made the scene completely stalemate. Kong Junk-si frowned, looking at the masked black shadow, feeling something was wrong, and joined the battle. With a few explosions, both sides took a few steps back. Kong Junk-si covered his bleeding arm and was very angry. He didn't expect that in a 3-on-2 situation, one of his own team still had obvious injuries. It was really embarrassing. Yuan's was extremely confused by the masked boy in front of him. He exuded a familiar aura, but was also accompanied by an indescribable sense of indifference and alienation. Yuan's tried hard to search his memory, but he could not find any impression that matched this boy. He began to doubt whether he really had such a friend. In the distance, above the head of Xiaoji, a lazy young man was focusing on this place, muttering to himself. Yuanzi's personality is really a bit like him. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories, and never miss out on a great listen.